ready. Just start.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're ready to start the afternoon session. So before we get started, could I please ask everyone to either turn off their cell phones or use the silent feature? And just so you know, because I know you, for your viewing pleasure, when you can't sleep, you might want to re-watch today's session, but we're on YouTube. So when you come up to the podium, please make sure you speak loudly so that the microphone can catch that, please. We'd appreciate that. So firstly, we want to acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. So in accordance, the Committee of Adjustment hearings now called to order, and in accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act, the committee will proceed with the agenda for the afternoon. The committee considers applications for minor variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to create new lots. So just as an opening comment, if you are interested or want to receive a decision of the Committee of Adjustment on the matter that you are here to either observe or participate in today, please ensure that you complete a decision request form, which is on the table at the back, and file it with staff sitting on the right. Without that, unless you file that, you won't get a copy of the decision. Also, please ensure that you include your email address on that form, because if the decision of the Committee of Adjustment is appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, that organization deals through email. So please ensure that you fill out one of those decision request cards if you wish to get a copy of the decision on the matter you're interested in. So to ensure a fair and timely hearing, I'm going to vet the agenda to determine which applications can be dealt with immediately and which applications require a more in-depth review. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda and ask if anyone other than the agent or the applicant is present in interest and wishes to address the committee. If there are people in interest, the matter will be held until all non-contested applications have been cleared from the agenda. If your item is held, we strongly advise you to meet with the interested parties outside the hearing room in an effort to resolve concerns or issues. If no person is present in interest, the agent or applicant will proceed with their presentation if required. The committee may ask questions and or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. There is a clock on the wall, so you can sort of pace yourself, but we will interrupt and advise you if you're getting close to your time. When addressing the committee, please come forward to the podium, clearly state your name and address, and we will then proceed. If you have a written submission that you read from, please hand it to the Deputy Secretary Treasurer when you are done. First, the applicant or agent will make a presentation to the committee of the application as submitted. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will speak. If there are several speakers sharing the same view, please select a spokesperson to present the group's opinion. We want to hear everyone's views, however, it's not necessary to hear the same points more than once. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker at the end of their submission. When all speakers are finished, the applicant has the opportunity to rebut only the related issues that were raised. The matter will then be taken into committee for decision, and that will mark the end of all discussion. And please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. If you do not agree with the committee's decision, you may file an appeal to the local Toronto appeal body. Information about them can be found on their website, which can be linked through the City of Toronto website or through the Committee of Adjustment website. Appeal instructions to the local appeal body will be contained on the bottom of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment. So before we start, any declarations of interest, committee members or staff? No. Any files to be closed in this session? Okay. Any deferral requests in this session? Okay. Thank you. So we're going to vet the agenda. So item number 23, 28 Wellesley Street East, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Item number 24, 148 Davisville Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Okay, so we'll hold that matter down. Item number 25, 181 Fern Avenue, agent or applicant? Sorry, thank you. Anyone in interest? Number 26, 99 Milverton Boulevard, agent or applicant? Anyone in interest? Number 27, 243 Wychwood Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Number 28, 1 Ostend Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Number 29, 179 Perth Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Number 30, 232 Ashdale Avenue, agent? Anyone in interest? Number 31, 13 Strathmore Boulevard, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Okay. So the only matter we're holding down is number 24, 148 Davisville Avenue, so we encourage you to have a discussion outside the room. Okay, we will start with item number 23, 28 Wellesley Street East. The committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans and elevations, covering letter from the solicitor, site-specific bylaw 524-2016, and a previous decision of the Committee of Adjustment affecting the property at 40 Wellesley Street East. Please come forward, sir, and your name and address, please.
Ryan Miller, 59 Hayden Street, agent for the owner.
Okay, committee, do you need a presentation or would you like to proceed with any questions at all?
No presentation.
Okay, any questions?
Not any questions.
No questions?
Mr. Miller, just what was there in the dental, in the office before? You want a dental medical, what was there?
So this is a new mixed-use building which was just completed about a year ago. So the tenants really didn't come out to look at the space that was finished. And so this proposal is simply to have a dental office on the second floor mezzanine. I have a photo if you want to see it. And before that, there was sort of a mixed-use commercial building that had all kinds of uses, from karate to pharmacies. It's right across the street from Sunnybrook Hospital.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Okay, thank you. We're in committee.
What would your site-specific zoning have allowed in that area?
There was several items. There was an auctioneer, bake shop, bank, caterer, dry cleaner, pawnbroker, animal hospital, takeout, retail, hotel, massage parlor, undertaker, and trade school, all from the OMB and the bylaw 43886. We just didn't know who was really going to show up until they saw the space, and so we couldn't have taken care of that sooner.
Okay,
All right. We in committee?
yes.
Okay, through you, Madam Chair, I think that what's being proposed fits in that area very well. The Sunnybrook Orthopedic Hospital is across the street. There's transportation all around. The subway's really close, within walking distance, so I think it's an appropriate use, and I would move approval of the application, as I feel it meets the 4 tests.
Okay, all in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you.
Item number 25, 181 Fern Avenue. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevation. And can we have your name for the record?
Eddie Trotter, 81 St. Clair's Avenue.
Committee members, any questions, Mr. Trotter? No questions? Okay, we're in committee. Discussion or motion?
I'm prepared to move approval of this application. I think it's extremely minor in nature and entirely suitable to the area.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you.
Number 26, 99 Milverton Boulevard. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 8 form letters in support signed by the owners or occupants of 93, 95, 97, 98, 100, 101, 102, and 103 Milverton Boulevard. Can you have your name and address
afternoon.
for the record, please?
I'm Kyle Kadra, the agent.
Thank you. Committee members, any questions, presentation?
Your questions.
Okay, any then questions, please proceed.
On variance number 2, you're seeking to bring the altered semi-detached dwelling to a front lot setback of 2.66 when the required bylaw is 4.65 meters.
Yes. So you're wondering why we're doing that?
Yeah.
So we're just enclosing the front porch, and this is generating that variance in this case.
So is it an existing condition, where it sits now, the
It is.
open porch?
Yep.
Okay.
So they're measuring it against the main front wall
Yeah.
rather than the porches on the adjacent?
Yeah, they're measuring the new front yard setback from where the front porch
You're
is
being measured from the porch, and that's being measured against
The neighbors.
wall and the neighbors?
next door neighbors. Yes, correct.
Variance number 4, your exterior stairs, which you should have it at 0.6 meters. The new front porch stairs will be 0.03. It's almost like 0.0.
Yes, sir. So
And from the west side of the lot line is 0.17 meters. Can't you do better than that in view of adjustments?
So in terms of the staircase, we are required to provide a landing for the staircase to get into the house as per the building code. So we have to push the stairs to that level. It seems to be okay with planning. That doesn't seem to be an issue. There are no comments from planning, and when we talked to them before we applied for this permit, they seem to feel that this is common in this area. Did you have another question?
No other
about-
questions from me.
Okay, sir.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. We're in committee, discussion or motion?
So appearances of variance 2 aside, this is a common feature of the area. Many porches have been closed. And I think the variance is essentially technical, so I'd be prepared to move approval.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor?
Thank you.
Application's approved. Number 27, 243 Wychwood Avenue. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, correspondence from the Assistant Planner, Community Planning, City Planning, Toronto and East York District, the Acting Coordinator, Transportation Services, Permits and Enforcement Parking, Toronto and East York District, and 17 form letters in support signed by the owners or occupants of 232, 234, 236, 238, 241, 245, and 247 Wychwood Avenue, and 230, 231, 237, 240, 242, 249, 251, and 253 Wychwood Avenue, and 88 and 89 Maplewood Avenue. Could we have your name and address for the record, please, sir?
Sure. Marco Razzolini, agent for the owner.
How do you spell your last name?
It's Razzolini.
Thanks.
And your address?
911 Davenport Road.
Thank you. Okay, committee members, presentation or any questions?
Okay.
Okay, proceed with any questions.
Mr. Razzolini, variance 1, why do you require a floor space index of, it's almost double? Yeah,
So the existing right now is 0.88.
0.88,
We're proposing 1.04. So it's a difference of 0.16. Looking at Wychwood, most of the properties on the street are fairly large lots. For this section of Wychwood, they're smaller lots. So that's why the FSI number is a little bit higher. But in terms of GFA, it's in line with the neighborhood. We're also only proposing a addition to the third floor, rear addition, and a small bump out of the ground floor. We're not altering the footprint by a lot. It's really just a small third floor addition.
What happened to your main wall heights? Why are they also, why are they much taller than the requirements that is permitted?
So looking at the third floor plan, just again, there wasn't really a lot of area to slope the roof just because the third floor is already pretty small. So we've had to go with a flat roof design there. And we've tried to keep it in line with the existing roof line. From the front elevation, nothing's changing. This is only happening at the rear of the home. It shouldn't be seen from the street.
Are balconies prevalent in the area?
Right now, there's an existing one on the home that's about 12 square meters, so we're actually significantly reducing the size.
Do any other homes have balconies, or?
Not sure. I would believe so. That's,
Okay.
yeah.
Curious.
Any other questions, panel members? Okay, thank you. We're in committee, discussion or motion?
Just comment, that balcony gave me pause as well, and when I look at it, honestly, it seems to be looking at a brick wall.
Yeah. So,
Where, the balcony?
We need that for egress for the building code. There needs to be some sort of platform for the third floor.
okay, are we
Yeah, but-
ready then?
Yeah.
Actually, what I was getting at is, it seems to handle any privacy issue by being very contained.
I get it. All right, through you, Madam Chair, there's significant support for this application, including, adjacent homes, both of them. So in terms of the application itself, I don't think they're asking for that much extra space. I think there are homes that are much bigger and longer than what's being proposed. The laneway's in the rear as well, so in terms of overlook, it's not, I don't think it's that invasive. So I'm prepared to move approval of the application as I feel it meets the 4 tests and fits within what's in the neighborhood now.
Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? The application's approved. Number 28, 1 Ostend Avenue. So I'm just going to pause for a moment. I just saw someone come in. Were you a late arrival, sir, the gentleman in the baseball cap? What item are you here for? You're just here to listen? Okay, I just wanted to make sure we had you accounted for. Thank you. Okay, before we get started, we have a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, covering letter from the applicants, including a context map showing neighborhood precedents for height and gross floor area, 6 photographs of neighboring properties with similar in height, north-south section rendering, north elevation rendering, proposed front yard landscaping. We have a staff report from the acting supervisor, tree protection and plan review, urban forestry, correspondence from the Swansea Area Ratepayers Association, and 10 form letters in support signed by owners and occupants of Ostend Avenue, Dury Street, and Mayfield Avenue. Could we have your name and address for the record, please, sir?
Rajko Jakovic, I'm the applicant.
Thank you. Committee members, do you need a presentation or
No.
proceed to questions?
Have you seen the Swansea? We just got this morning in the briefing. Have you seen the Swansea?
Yes.
papers? So can you speak to that issue about the door, please?
I can, and I have an additional letter of support in relation to
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So my west neighbor alerted me to the letter from the ratepayers
Okay.
because who signed that letter, this is the second letter of support from them, but this is specifically
Specific to the-
addressing this issue. I've worked closely with all the neighbors, particularly this neighbor, with all the variances and the addition of the door for the basement. They felt, and I would agree, that the location of the door where it is provides the most privacy for their property and ours. It limits any tenant that would be in the basement to the front part of the property rather than them accessing further down into the property. So to address the issue around the variance and to sort of keep with the character of the neighborhood, we've added a screen that comes across that would be the same treatment of the front porch. So essentially it looks like an extension of the front porch. So if you flip over, you can see sort of a rendering that highlights how that would act.
In your application materials.
Yeah, so I've just sort of,
Oh, it's colored.
This one's colored.
yeah, this one's colored. And only the part of interest. So essentially we're making it look like it's simply part of the front porch. So the door would not be visible from the street at all.
Okay. It sounds like you've been talking to those neighbors about this.
Oh, very much so.
Sounds like a lot of work went into it anyway.
We've tried.
Okay.
So the basement, where would the basement walkout be?
At the front of the house, so behind the screen. So as I said, it wouldn't be visible from the street, but you would enter it off the driveway essentially, but not.
Side?
I could point it out to you
Yeah.
if I may. This is the front of the house. These stairs are.
So where does it fit on this?
Well, that's just exactly it. You wouldn't even see it. So it's behind this screen, down below grade. So it's not at all visible.
How do you exit from the basement? You walk out through the screen?
You walk out here and then up the stairs. So the screen is here. That light brown line there. That's the screen.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Your landscape is moving from 75% to 21%. Can you give us more of an idea which other neighborhood houses only have a landscape of 21%?
Many properties have virtually zero. What we're
In that neighborhood?
Oh, yes. Where we're fortunate is the city boulevard is quite large on our property, and as you can see in the supporting documentation, it will be almost entirely softscaping. And the reason our property doesn't meet the requirement is we have a very large front porch that we'd like to maintain. And then I've spoken to planning about it, and they did ask us to increase it from the initial proposal, which we've done. And so the pathways accommodate entrance to the property, and then also an entrance to the walkout as well.
What's the existing? Do you know?
I'm not certain.
Is it close to what you're asking for?
It's fairly close, minus the pathways. Yeah. So right now, the property is sort of in the as-is condition that we purchased it, and it doesn't have a proper pathway to the stairs or to the front door.
Thank you. Any other questions, panel members?
Are you aware of the urban forestry requirement?
I am, and in the supporting documentation that I provided, we indicated that no trees will be injured or harmed. We're outside of the 6-meter requirement, so we should be fine there. We're not proposing to remove any trees.
Okay, so we don't need, what do you mean? There's a requirement from urban forestry. So you're saying there's no tree removed, but how do we satisfy the requirement? Put the condition? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right.
No other questions?
Madam Chair,
We're in committee then?
I move for approval of the application. It meets the 4 tests of mine, truly minor. He has made an adjustment to ensure that the screen on the front adjustment is made, and so it does not violates the character of the neighborhood. And because he doesn't have any trees to be removed, and because the requirement from urban forestry, I would also ask in my motion that urban forestry 1, which is a requirement they set out, for their professional purposes also be a condition of this application.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Okay, all in favor? Your application with the forestry condition is approved.
Thank you.
Number 29, 179 Perth Avenue. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a previous decision of the Committee of Adjustment affecting the subject property, correspondence from the Acting Coordinator Transportation Services, permits and enforcement parking, Toronto and East York District, a letter of opposition from 181 Perth Avenue. So to begin with, could we have your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Alejandro Perez. I'm the representing the applicant. I wasn't aware of the letter of opposition. Can I have a look at it?
181 for 181. Where's 181? Across the road, across the next street from
the
here?
road.
You can,
Yeah, it should be okay. Anyway, he wants a copy.
yep. I just want to make sure I haven't marked anything up. That no. Committee members, do you need a presentation, or would you like to proceed with questions?
I don't need a presentation.
Okay. Are you aware of the email from Transportation Services?
Yeah, that one I am aware. So basically the story of this is that my client wanted to have a parking spot in the property. My client is here, Antonio Sabone. He is a retired person, and he just thinks it will be convenient to have parking in the property. We made the application for parking to have the curb cut. By the way, in that letter they talk about a tree that was cut down, but that was the city. We didn't even apply. We didn't even know. They just came, cut the tree, and left.
This isn't about the tree.
Yeah, that we didn't apply. We never asked for it. It was, I think, in city property. It was a sick tree, and the city came and cut it down.
This is email from Transportation Services?
Yes, and the email from transportation.
In April.
Yes, in opposition, right?
Right.
Yes. So we applied for the parking, and I spoke to the person who wrote the email. I don't remember his name.
Long found.
Yeah, and what they say is that they say it's just the policy they have to oppose because it's smaller than is required. It's all he told me. And I spoke to Ryan Santiago, who was handling our case here in Committee of Adjustment, and I said, well, we applied for the parking permit, and the Carlos Almeida was the person who was dealing with our application, and he says we have two options. One, to go to Committee of Adjustment to get approved for a smaller parking space, or the other option was to apply within his office for an encroachment application to have the parking space encroach into the city property, because this is a corner property. And I spoke to him, and he actually said that he suggested it will be better to apply to Committee of Adjustment, just because if in the future the client sells the property or whatever happens, they don't have to be renewing the encroachment agreement. It's a city property. If you look at the map, we are short only 38 centimeters, which is like a foot. That's all we are short. My client has a small car. Like the average the average length of a car is 4.5 meters.
It would fit within the 5.
Yeah, it will be plenty of space. I don't think it's just like the property is 5.2. Like we cannot make it bigger. We can get an encroachment, but I think it's better to have the parking space reduced. The other option was to get the parking space on an angle. We explored that possibility, but that reduces the open landscape space. So I think it's better to have the parking space reduced and keep the landscape.
Technically, you could park on Ernest Avenue without any involvement on Perth. Is that how it does? The parking space. Where would you put it?
The curb cut will be on Ernst Avenue. Yes.
Okay, no other questions? We're in committee? Discussion or motion?
Through you, Madam Chair, in my opinion, this variance is minor. Across the street from what's being proposed here, there's actually a double, it looked like a double entrance into a driveway. So I think, 0.4 meters is minimal in my opinion, and there are many types of cars that would fit within that kind of a length and still leave some space. So I would be supporting this application because I think it's appropriate and meets the 4 tests. So I don't know if somebody has any comments, but
Motion, I'll second it.
yeah, that's a motion to approve.
Is that
If I were to make a comment, it would only be that you understand this is saying that you can't park on the boulevard. You need to park on the property.
Yes, I understand.
So is that subject to the condition about having to get the approved curb cut?
There is no condition other than,
Just saying they'd rather
it's
not.
just that you need to go to them. if
Yes,
you're
pay a
doing
fee
any
for them to come cut the
landscaping,
cut, yeah.
Paving, and I don't know, is it paved yet, or,
Sorry, it said and to arrange for an approved curb.
We cannot pay because they say city council hasn't determined the fees for 2019.
It's, I wouldn't mind putting a condition in for permeable pavers if you're gonna do
We
anything to it.
finished approving motion already.
No, we didn't.
No.
No, we did not.
I would question whether that's directly related if there's no variance for.
Yeah, well, but it is for the parking space, so.
I
Is,
think-
is there existing, like what kind of surface do you have now? Like, is it gravel or what is it?
In that area,
Yeah.
it's just open landscape.
No, it's,
On Ernest Avenue?
Yes.
So when you drive there,
There is no driveway. Like what we need is to get the curb cut to be able to park. Yes.
So would you be amenable to making it permeable pavers, so it's not like solid pavement?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we can put gravel or some of the
Right.
one with grass. Yeah.
So that would be a condition added to the motion to approve then? That's all.
Parking pad and driveway.
Yeah, for the parking pad.
And drive.
And driveway.
so you'd have permanent pavers
Yeah.
on driveway, and that wouldn't be on Perth Avenue, that would be on Ernest Avenue, right behind the house.
Yeah, where it says on the site plan, where on the site, it shows on the site plan where.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's on,
Ernest,
yep.
okay.
so when you're applying for, have to apply for a curb cut.
Yes.
Okay, do I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Okay. All in favor? Your application's approved with that condition.
Okay. Thank you.
Number 30, 232 Ashdale Avenue. Committee has before it copy of a plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevation. And can we have your name and address, please, sir?
Yes, Agent Architect, Lowell Low, 250 Consumers Road, North York.
Okay, so this is to legalize an existing situation.
Yes, yes, it's a second-story addition to the rear, and there is an existing ground floor addition that was built about 30 years ago, and what the client has done was built to match the boundaries of the existing ground floor addition, but on the second floor,
And it was built without a permit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in my drawings, I've allowed for space for exterior outboard insulation to the second story. So, so those couple inches were dimensioned on the drawings, just because building code requires outboard insulation now, and I allowed more than the minimum for the building permit application.
The depth of your property just goes past your neighbors
The depth?
at 234. 234 is almost as deep as the property.
Oh, yes, yeah.
230 isn't, but 234 is.
Right, I didn't measure the, I
I'm just.
think I got, yeah,
I'm just looking at your drawing site plan, just shows the place. Okay.
yeah.
Any other questions, panel members? Okay. We're in committee, discussion or motion?
I'd move for a motion for approval. I don't think there's anything necessary to do to this application. I'd move for approval. Meets the four tests in the Plan Act.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you.
Item number 31, 13 Strathmore Boulevard. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Correspondence from the Assistant Planner, Community Planning, City Planning, Toronto and East York District, and a staff report from the Development Officer, Property Planning and Development, Toronto Transit Commission, 2 form letters in support, signed by the owners of occupants of 11 and 15 Strathmore Boulevard. We have your name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is David Smith, 401 Craven Road. I'm here representing the homeowners at 13 Strathmore Boulevard. Let me know if you need a presentation or if you have any questions.
Do you have any questions, panel members?
Just minimal height, Mr. Smith. I think you're going up to 9.24 meters instead of 7.5 that is required by the bylaw. Why do you need to go that height?
Well, it's the process of giving them a reasonable ceiling height on the third floor addition, but it's very much in keeping with the neighborhood. And if you refer to the staff correspondence with Cassia, the city planner, we went back and forth over that issue in general. And her sort of last comment is city planning's happy to accept the proposal as is, because we were able to demonstrate that it's very much in keeping with the neighborhood. And more to the point, they look south onto commercial properties that front Danforth, so it's not a residential, so like a standard residential situation.
Well, you have a problem only with TTC. What's going on there?
I think they just didn't read the report or the proposal. I think that's a standard condition that they send out. Obviously, we're happy to comply, but if you read it, they're concerned about us impacting TTC infrastructure. This is a third floor addition, so there will be no foundations or anything.
No
So
excavation.
it's just a standard. I think anything that comes within a radius of TTC, they fire off the report requirement.
In the email correspondence that I have, you refer to your clients' prepared examples of imposing or unusual additions around, but we don't have any pictures. Did you bring any with you or not?
I didn't, because I figured the correspondence with the city planner themselves was sufficient. I mean, really, so as is standard with the third floor proposal, she had asked us to set it back a bit from the second floor roof line, and there was comments about sort of if you're overlooking into residential properties. The photos that were sent demonstrated that even on Strathmore Boulevard, there was a number of additions that basically go to the end of the third floor addition.
Right.
And like I was saying earlier, because they look south towards the commercial properties that front onto Danforth, there's no residential that looks north towards them. So the issue of that impact and sort of conversation about privacy is removed because it's all sort of single-story commercial properties.
Okay.
So long story short, I didn't think it was relevant or necessary to bring the photos.
Yeah, no, I kept flipping, am I missing something? 'Cause
Yeah, sorry.
but-
I didn't need, I mean, once we got Cassie's approval, I was like, that should be sufficient, but.
Maybe in the future, if you do have, just
sure.
bring a couple, it's always good to see.
Absolutely.
Great.
Any other questions, panel members?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you. We're in committee, discussion or motion?
Madam Chair, I truly believe that this matter is minor, and I move for approval. It doesn't meet the four tests, and we recognize the TTC review document is irrelevant, so I move for approval of the application as it stands.
Do I have a seconder?
I will.
Okay, all in favor? The application's approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so- 24. Everyone back in the room for 148 Davisville Avenue. Is the opposition still here? If you could please come and sit on the left here, please, and thank you. So can we have your name and address?
Yeah, good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of committee. My name is Dejan Ocic. Do you need me to spell that? D-E-J-A-N. That's the first name, and last name is O-C-I-C-E-K. I'm an agent representing clients from 148 Davisville Avenue. Before I start talking about the variances, we are eliminating one that we just discussed.
Okay.
Variance number 4, the box window, it's being eliminated. It's going to be a flush window.
Variance number 4.
Yes.
Okay, so you've had an opportunity to have a discussion?
You know what? I came up and I asked. They said later they want to talk.
No,
now,
just let me finish for a second.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. You've had an opportunity to have a discussion. Is there still areas where there's not agreement?
I think so. Yes.
Okay, so could you make your presentation?
Yes.
On your application?
So we're proposing to build a second-story addition over the existing main floor with a third floor loft within the roof. We think that the variances we're requesting are minor in nature, and they are all actually referring to the existing house. And there's pretty much nothing we can do because we are following the existing footprint of the house. We did have discussions originally with the planning department, and we came to some solutions to remove the back addition, the second-story back addition over the existing main floor addition, and to just go on the footprint of the existing house that has footings. The back sunroom doesn't have footings, so she said it was built a long time ago, and it was, I guess, now grandfathered in.
Grade?
Yeah, it's built at grade, so we're gonna move and build just on top of the existing main floor. All the other ones, so we're eliminating number 4. All the other ones are actually just there from the beginning. The side yard entrance, the steps are there from a long time ago. We're not adding anything there. We're under everything like GFA, floor space index, height of the building. So we do consider that this application is minor in nature. I did see the opposition letters, and I would just like to say that one point that they're making is the noise and the mess. What we do is we build prefabricated homes. So we actually bring 2 sections, like the walls, exterior walls are pre-built in our shop, and then the roof is pre-built in our shop. So we crane everything over top of the existing. We're in and out within 3 to 4 days, weather dependent. So I think that might help with neighbors.
You are the builder?
Yes, I'm the builder, yes.
Just one question, just to make sure I'm right with the depth of the property.
Yes.
Is that mainly related to where the current house is situated?
Yes, that's what it is, yes. So there's a water easement at the front, so the current house sits far back. That's the only house on the street that sits that far back, so the building depth actually refers to existing house.
Yeah, my question was actually going to be, because it's kind of sitting like way back from anything else.
Yes.
Would this not be an opportunity to bring it more in line with the frontages of the other houses, or does that generate a lot more variance?
It's a lot more. You know what? It does. We could bring it up, but it's the cost for my clients to actually excavate, get rid of the front, excavate, bring everything to the front. This is the most cost-effective and the quickest way to do it, actually.
He wants to build on the footprint, I think.
Well, I understand
Sorry?
that. I'm just asking.
I didn't hear what
I
you
said
said.
you just want to build on the footprint. And
Yeah, just on the footprint of the existing house, nothing more.
What's the actual length of the house?
I can tell you. So it is 16.48 meters.
Thank you.
I have my converter. I can get it if you need feet.
It's okay. Deal metric here. Okay,
That's the main floor. Sorry, the second floor is actually less. The second floor is 13.83 because the main floor has that sunroom addition. Well, the box, yes, it is including the box window, so it will be removed.
Okay, I just wanted from a
That's 0.72 centimeters.
sort of a massing perspective, I
Yeah.
wanted to have a better idea.
In terms of this size, when the product is finished, like the homes around look much larger than what this is right now.
Yes.
How would it kind of be size-wise related to what's around it?
Oh, you know what? I looked at the homes around, and I think ours is actually going to be smaller than what most of them are. The only difference is the stucco finish at the front, but if there's anything, we're open to discussions with that, but...
Okay. Any other questions at this time?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
We'll hear from you, please. Is just one of you speaking or both of you speaking?
Both will be speaking.
Okay.
Within the 5 minutes.
Okay, all right. Then if we could have both your names and addresses, please. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Feriba Arkan, and I am the owner of 150 Davisville Avenue. I have owned this property for almost 11 years, and being beside 148 Davisville Avenue, I have no privacy on my backyard. When I barbecue, they are coming to putting their head into my backyard. What are you barbecuing tonight?
Hey. Don't die talking.
I have their windows into my backyard. In the last 11 years, at least every month, 4 or 5 times, they have trespassed to my property. And then I asked them between the hours of 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., weekend and weekdays. And then I asked them, why are you here? Why didn't you give me the prior notice? They say, because this is right of way, it's none of your business. I never confront them in the court or anything, but every month they trespass to my property, wanted to repair my air condition. So if you look at here, these are the windows into my backyard, and they are entering from the other side, from the east side of my property, at least 4 or 5 times per month, just because they feel this is their backyard.
Okay. So,
11 years.
Okay, so those are issues that we can't deal with specifically. What are your concerns with respect to the application that's before us to expand the house?
I have Mr. Yuri Berzin. He is a landscape architect and urban designer. He's helping me with this opposition to this application.
Certainly. Is there anything else that you wanted to say right now, or would you?
She will conclude.
Okay,
At the end.
that's fine. Thank you very much.
Sorry, can you spell your name? I didn't, no, yours, you.
My name?
Yeah. 'cause
It's Yuri Berzins. It's Juri. Last name's Berzins,
Yeah.
Berzins. And I'm a landscape architect and urban designer.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. And I'll keep my accounting brief. As we see in front of us here, we have kind of 2 different stories. We are very concerned about this development because it is very large. And because of the block layout of this particular block, it is the only house that sits back, as you had a previous question.
So that's an existing situation, though.
It's existing,
Yes.
however, it affects her backyard,
Okay.
as she has mentioned. This is the only house among 50 buildings that is set back. So it in fact affects her and other neighbors. In the site plan, the house also, as you can see, are set back. Ms. Faribar Khan would not mind at all if development of this scale, which is in the same size of the buildings that are there, would be beside her. Recently, last spring, her neighbor to the other side made a full renovation of their property. No problem. But this property, because it basically sits in her backyard almost, and I will show you a picture shortly how that looks in her backyard, takes away her complete privacy. And now, that is the existing building. Now that they're going to add 2 stories to make it a 3-story building, they're going to have total invasion of privacy. I want to show you. I'm just going to be brief with these.
No.
As in all good planning, there is a block morphology to this whole neighborhood. This is it right here. Buildings, 3 stories, same height as theirs, no problem. This is Miss Arcon's building right here. Okay. You can see her neighbor to the east. She's in keeping with. They did a major renovation last year. Miss Arcon did not have a problem with that.
Did that house sat at that
That house
frontage
sat there,
though?
yes.
Okay.
Now, you can see how far back this
Right.
house sits. Basically, what the situation is it sits in her backyard. Because this is the most important picture of all. The picture says 1,000 words.
Yes.
When they say they want to build a building beside her, it's not true. This is her patio, right beside her kitchen wall, and this is the front facade of the existing building. That's basically about 15 feet diagonally from her kitchen. So the important point in all of this is, if there is an existing building as of right, but if the city allows another building 3 stories higher than the existing very onerous conditions, it's very hard for my client to approve of this. And she, again,
Okay, so.
I'm going to conclude and then give it back to her.
No, I don't want you to leave it. I have a question to ask.
Yes, sir.
As a professional, what is your...
I am a professional landscape architect and urban designer.
Yeah, so what is what's your proposed resolution on this matter?
I believe they should be allowed to develop their property, but in its existing form. They should not be able to get an extension height of 2 stories or 3 stories. One more very important point. Very germane. As you can see here, her house is here, and this is the property line all the way along here. So basically, their eastern wall is 0.2 meters from her property line. I don't know how that was approved in the first place. 0.2 meters. Do you understand? On her, basically, their wall sits on her property line. Now, when this 3-story addition is added onto this building, the amount of shadow in her backyard is basically at least half a day.
Well, you do know that there's no variances requested for height.
Well, I'm just saying, her backyard is going to be in shadow for half a day. That's unreasonable.
All right, any?
I'm going to conclude there and just let her conclude.
We're
Thank you.
almost 7.5 minutes, so.
My conclusion is, I'm not against development, but a good development. If someone builds beside me, I will help them, like my east neighbor, who I left my mutual driveway for the daytime for them to using their building material. I have no problem. But this is losing my privacy and becomes a kind of a, this is not in keeping up with the neighborhood. There is nothing like this in the neighborhood. All the semis house, 2-story houses, the whole block. And this is basically, my understanding is that this was a part of semi which pushed back pushed back. Basically, it was half of this house, it was 2 semi side by side. My house stand in this place and the other one pushed back. How can a semi at the end of my backyard make a 3-story? Is the look of Davisville village will be also, it's not non-conforming with the look of Davisville village area.
Okay,
And
thank you.
the second point, which I
Okay,
want
you're
to...
at almost 9 minutes, so please wrap up now.
Yes, to you, the Committee of Adjustment basically said that must be satisfied with the proposal is desirable for the appropriate development or use of the land and or building. Is this proposal desirable? It's not desirable to me, it's not desirable to the neighborhood, and I hope it's not desirable to ladies and gentlemen here.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks
Any
very
questions?
much. Thanks for your time.
No questions? Thank you very much. You have an opportunity to rebut the points that have been raised.
There's one house on number 307 Davisville that sits exactly the same as ours is. And the only reason that our house is sitting where it is because there's a water easement. There used to be a river there, so they had to move it to where it is right now. In all honesty, our building is within the height, within the allowable GFA, floor space index. All of these conditions are existing, so again, we do think that this is very minor in nature. I understand the privacy and everything, but I don't know if you were beside the property, but the property on the left-hand side has balcony that's second story and the main floor balcony that overlook into my client's front yard and the living room. They've never had anything to say against it, and it is what it is. I mean, they bought the house and they're developing in what they have.
What can you do about the privacy on the side on their side?
We can extend the fence. We'll put a lattice screen if they want to any desirable height that they want.
3 stories?
Not 3 stories, but I mean, we can't go that high.
Okay, we're not having a discussion.
sorry.
this way.
Yeah.
The discussion
Yeah,
is
but
this
with
way.
private fence within the bylaw.
Yes, within the bylaw, whatever is required within the bylaw, we are willing to do.
Okay, because in my situation, I would be seeking a condition, a privacy fence be set up by you on their side.
Of course.
Okay.
The house you mentioned at 307 that sits back?
There's no current development
Yeah,
on the
that
house.
was my question.
Yes.
It's still a bungalow?
It's still a bungalow. There's no current development.
Okay.
So has the house on this lot, the current house, always been on as far back?
Yes.
Okay,
To my knowledge, it was.
Since 1980.
Probably. To be honest with you, I do not know.
okay.
But
Any other questions? Okay. All right, thank you. We're in
Welcome.
committee. Discussion, motion.
Were this a new structure, I think it would be an entirely different question, but as I see this, there's no height variance. There's really no variance for the nature of the structure proposed. Except the fact that the existing footprint is farther back than would be ideal. I don't think it would be reasonable for us to demand that it be demolished for an expansion when that addition is very near to as of right. I do support including the privacy fence, but
As they'll ask you for a privacy fence, would you be in agreement for privacy fence?
But in the front of the bill?
Where's this fence gonna go, like that you want, that you're suggesting? Where would the fence go?
At the back,
The back is.
But the house is
At the back.
like,
where's the applicant? Can I just ask him one more?
Okay, we're out of committee. We're one question.
Yeah. No, I don't need a picture. I just need to hear from you.
Yes, sir.
The privacy fence, where will you put the privacy fence?
Along the side of the house?
What side? North side, south side, east side?
Just give me 1 second. I'm just gonna look at along the
It would have to be in the front
east
yard.
side.
but it would be in the front
Front yard.
yard, would it not?
No, in the back.
No, it would have to be in the applicant's front yard.
It's in our front.
Front yard.
So you were proposing along the entire length of our front yard?
Okay.
No.
Well, just to serve.
Can I show you the site plan? Maybe you'll be able to understand it better.
Would you like to borrow this? Because from where I sit, you put in the front, maybe to the back of her house, but to pull it
Yeah.
all the way to the front makes no sense.
So if I do this,
Back
Why
to
don't
the
put
back
it
of
on
her
the
house.
the only thing that I'm thinking is maybe here.
You want to put it on the overhead and, because to pull it to the front, you'd actually have a house now with not only setback,
Yeah.
but having a fence all the way to that makes no sense.
May I ask the committee question? Is that out of order, or may I ask?
I'll ask Madam Chair, the respondent.
Yeah, it would be to the rear wall of 150 would make sense, but not to pull it all the way forward, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
to the rear wall.
Okay, so this submission is in response to a question from the committee
right?
member
Yeah.
only. So it's only with respect to,
The
if the
rear.
committee member was talking about a privacy fence,
Rear-
where are we talking about where it would be? That's the extent of this discussion. We're
Can you
not
maybe mark
reopening
it
this.
on
again.
the, so that Mr. Russell knows what?
There, at the rear wall.
Well, the rear wall of
The rear of the
48.
fence.
Right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the site plan, there's already a hedge.
And we can go as far back as you,
Is there a hedge there now?
there is a hedge.
How high is the hedge?
4 or 5 feet.
3 feet.
Something like that. It's right along the fence there,
So there's already screening there.
Madam
Yeah,
Chair,
well,
but it's low.
Okay.
It's low.
so- Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair,
We're back in,
with your indulgence, could we ask the neighbors whether they want this fence?
so, yes, okay, so we have one a question of you. So if the committee, if we have not made a determination, so we're just going to ask one question, and that's, we're not opening up the whole discussion again. If the committee were inclined to consider this application, if a fence were to be constructed between the back wall of your home to at least the front wall of their home, would that negate any of your issues with respect to privacy?
No, because still their windows is in my backyard. The windows, if there is
The
no...
windows are currently in your backyard.
Yes, I agree. First of all, with these 4 or 5 windows, I lose my privacy. They want to build more windows and getting more people into this house. The reason is for this, there is more people going to go to this house.
You don't know that. That's not,
That's what when I confronted with
that's
them.
not part of the issue that's before the panel.
The panel is
So
trying
the
to,
question was with respect to the fence.
It's no.
So the answer is no.
No.
Okay, thank you.
they don't want a
So we're
private-
back in committee. Thank you very much.
I have one question of the committee.
No, we're not taking
Even if they
questions.
put the fence, the
taking-
fence is not going to address my privacy.
Thank you. We have your answer. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, can I
Appreciate it.
ask one question of the applicant?
Yes?
Where is he? Yeah, okay, you're back. The fences, or, I'm sorry, the windows that would be in the new addition, are they bedrooms? What are they? Can they be made?
Bedrooms.
So
Bedrooms and
can they
bathrooms,
make-
so we do need ventilation.
No, but can you make the bathroom opaque? Like, is there any of those windows that can be made, like,
Into,
yeah?
so there's only 2 windows, and we're taking off the 2 windows from the existing elevation on that side
Okay.
and putting them up.
Okay.
That's what we're doing. So we're not adding any more
No
because we,
additional?
No, but there's,
no, there's no additional.
but there's going to be 2 windows in the second story.
Yes, on that side, but
And
we're,
one is a bathroom, correct?
yes.
So can the bathroom be made frosted?
I can, yes, both. if you
Both
want.
windows okay, we just,
Okay.
both windows
You can
okay.
do
Frosted,
both?
yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's my question, Madam.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So,
The,
Which elevation is it? Don't go away, because
East.
east elevation? Okay.
East elevation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
Any other questions
No.
of anyone? Okay. We're in committee then.
okay. so
Thank you. Thank you. That's it. We're in committee now.
Would
No.
I would
We're done.
suggest
Get my privacy. property to be used for their site, for the
That's a different, okay, just a moment. We have to deal with this issue. Thank you. Yes. We're in committee now, discussion or motion.
Okay. I would be inclined then to move approval of this application, subject to condition that it be built substantially in accordance with drawing A19, which is the east elevation, and that the second-story windows on that east elevation use frosted glass,
Okay, and
opaque glass.
did you move as amended with that variance removed? Because I can't.
That I did not phrase that as amended just now, so.
As amended, yeah, because.
As amended,
So, okay, I'll second.
as
all of
amended,
that.
substantial in accordance with A19,
Yep,
opaque windows in the second-story east elevation.
okay.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, the application as amended is approved with that condition. And the question with respect to civil matters and trespassing, that's something that we can't deal with, and you have to have a discussion with the owners. You can fill out, as I said, excuse me, Mr. Russell. As I said at the beginning, anyone who wants a copy of the decision, please ensure you fill out that. If you filled out that, leave it with the staff. When the decision is issued, at the bottom of the decision, it will provide you with the instructions on how to appeal and the deadline within which you must appeal. Okay, and the decisions of this committee will be issued in a few days. Okay, so watch for that, and then the instructions will be at the bottom. Okay? Thank you very much. Okay, so I think that is,
You bet, and then,
yes.
right?
So we're going to vet the 2:30 agenda, and then we're going to take a short break. So, item number 32, 48 AMROTH Avenue, agent or applicant, thank you. Anyone in interest? 33 MILLERSON Avenue, agent or applicant, thank you. Anyone in interest? That wasn't a interest? No, that's okay. I don't want to miss anyone. 34, 138 Spruce Street, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? 35, 101 Scarborough Road, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Number 36, 46 to 54 Ossington Avenue, agent or applicant? Okay, anyone in interest? Number 37, 291 Glenholme Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Number 38, 205 Bathurst Street, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Number 39, 57, I won't pronounce this properly, WROXETER Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Number 40, 186 Windermere Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Number 41, 44 to 46 Bernard Avenue, agent or applicant? No, 44 to 46 Avenue, Bernard Avenue,
No, that's
agent or applicant? No, okay, we'll
cheated here.
check again. Okay, so no items are held in this time slot. We're just going to take a 5-minute break and we will then start. Thank you. Not you, not you. Oh, no.
Nobody wants to meet me up. Why?
I'll do my best. Thank you. Premier's canceled his cell phone.
That's embarrassing. I'm in-
Okay, we're back in session. We're going to start with number 32, 48 Amroth Avenue. Committee has before a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, copy of site plan including front yard parking detail, correspondence and support from 50 Amroth, 10 form letters in support signed by owners or occupants of 46 and 54 Amroth, 919 Woodbine Avenue, 16, 17, 34, 49, 41, and 66 Amroth Avenue. And your name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of committee. My name is David Smith, 401 Craven Road, here representing the homeowners at 48 Amroth Avenue.
Thank you. Committee members, do you have any questions?
I just have one, which is, we got this morning, but it does show a parking spot, so I'm a little confused because there's 0 parking variance.
So, great question. There was correspondence with transportation. Basically, they had come back to say, if you don't show a parking spot or how parking is used on the site, we're going to request that you put the curb, because there's a curb cut there now.
Right, yeah.
Restore the curb cut landscape. And I said, well, it's an existing condition, it's non-conforming because it's in front of the main wall. Long story short, Rebecca, as her name said, if you can upload to the site where they currently park and demonstrate, they'll remove the report. There is no transportation report because they're satisfied. So that's where that was generated.
Do you need this variance still then, or not?
We need it because the car parking is not completely behind the front wall.
I see,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Confused now because the 0 variance, through you, Madam Chair, the 0 parking variance means that there's no parking on the site anywhere.
It's so
If the parking is beyond the front wall, the variance should be for the parking beyond the front wall, or not in the location that it's supposed to be in.
Yeah, because it allows, it's not all in front of the front wall, it's part and part.
If the committee gives you a 0 parking variance, it means there's no parking space anywhere within the lot lines. And you're now proposing one within the lot lines.
Well, the variance basically suggests that you accept that we cannot provide a parking space because any parking space we're providing is technically non-conforming. So
No, my understanding from zoning is that when they say 0 parking, that means it cannot be provided within the lot lines. If you can provide a front yard parking space, then your variances are for a front yard parking space, parking beyond the main front wall.
But to the point that it's beyond the main front wall means it doesn't qualify as any form of parking. It's non-conforming.
That's not that's not what I've been told by zoning.
Like looking at this, part of it is beyond the wall, part of it is not.
No, certainly. But my experience with the examiners is if you cannot have all of it behind the front wall, it does not conform to parking. So to the greater conversation, because this was something that came up 2 days ago, I said to her, we can't go back and amend the variances to say, we can provide a parking space, it's non-conforming, here are the dimensions. I said, we'll just leave it at 0 because this is a true fact. We cannot provide conforming parking on this site. So
But there are parking standards that you would then need the variances from. It's not that you're not parking on the site, it's the parking space doesn't meet the standard of the parking, which is it's beyond the front wall, maybe too narrow, whatever, and those are what the variances should be.
Certainly. It was the fact that this conversation occurred 2 days ago. The mailers were out.
But I think that if you recall, I think a couple meetings ago, we had something similar, and we suggested a deferral at that time because, and they did end up with needing variances that were different from what we had before us.
We
So I'm not
absolutely
really.
have had variances that read parking will be partially in front of the wall, something like that.
Yeah, I actually agree with
don't wanna
Madam
see
Deputy Secretary Treasurer that this is going to be interpreted as no parking whatsoever on the
Rightfully
site.
so.
From the correspondence I had with transportation, she was satisfied, and that's why she withdrew the report. You can talk to Eileen because she had submitted it.
Well, we can
sure.
only
With what's in front
deal
of you.
with what's here, and like we got the blue sheet this morning in the briefing, so.
This is phrased as no parking will be provided, not that the parking is non-compliant. Fortunately, I think this
Transportation services withdrew their refusal report.
Right.
on the understanding that the parking space would be moved up.
Further to the point, this is,
They're two different groups.
I mean, I was just going to end with, this is an existing condition. We are not changing the parking condition. And this is obviously supported by a huge amount of the neighborhood. So all things being equal.
Right, but the existing condition is still, there is a spot on the site, so
It's, I mean, again,
you may end up coming back here again.
Because if you go to building permit, they might say you can't have that.
No, the building department will still issue a permit. It's just they're issuing them a permit to never have parking there. And if they
No, that's
park
what I
there,
mean.
They can turn around and say, well, they told me I could park here.
well, if the variance is approved, it means that you accept the fact that,
Yeah, if you said 0 parking space.
It means
You can't
no
park.
That
parking.
means no parking. If
Is,
you want to park there, you have to make another application.
is there any percentage in us standing it down and you just going to check if you can?
Well, through you, Madam Chair, if we do 0 parking, he'll get a building permit.
But with no parking on the site, right?
well, the variance acknowledges that we can't provide it.
They just
So,
acknowledge that.
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
gonna be
because the
so
requirement-
If he doesn't show a parking space in that driveway, he'll get a building permit.
yeah, I mean,
And if he can't put one on the thing, then he can't have one on the property. But there's nothing now that to say to close off the driveway.
So then you're saying this blue sheet would not be applicable?
If he was to walk downstairs right now to the building department and
take
said,
the
if I
car out of
said
this
0 parking space, do I still get a building permit? They would say yes.
Right.
But the problem is that for zoning purposes, no parking space gets him a building permit, but it doesn't satisfy right-of-way.
Right.
Because then if you have no, if you've got permission to not park on the site, where do you park? And he's showing it on this plan.
Right.
If he was showing it to be on the boulevard, right-of-way would have said, no, we don't want you to park there. We want you to close that off because under the chapter 918.
We want you to
municipal
reinstall the
code,
curb
They can't
cut.
apply for front yard parking.
yes, which was part of the
Prohibited.
conversation.
I mean, unless somebody's going to go out and police it. This is where it's getting, so when I had contacted zoning to find out what the proper way of dealing with these are, is 0 parking means it's not on here, on the lot.
It's fully on private property.
If it's fully on private property, it should be variances for the parking type.
No parking means no parking.
But originally, when this was reviewed under
Does
the
risk
zoning
become
review,
the
it was reviewed.
applicants then? The risk becomes the applicants?
Why don't we take it one step further? Because the concern is that if I didn't show the parking, the updated site plan, that somehow I get something I'm not supposed to. We're obviously maintaining the existing condition. Tie the approval to the updated site plan that demonstrates the car parking on private property, not on the boulevard.
But Mr. Smith, you want to tie the public parking to the private property, but you're asking for
We
0
can't
parking.
parking.
You can't, we can't approve that.
I don't understand why not.
The application, as it stands, is not for parking on the site in front of the main, in front of the front wall. It is for no parking on the
No
site.
parking. So the application.
It's to remove the requirement to provide one parking space, because for every dwelling, you have to provide one parking space.
At which point, right-of-way would like you to close off the driveway.
The curb cut has to be gone and everything has to be soft-scaped. So you wouldn't be able to have the spot you're showing on the blue sheets.
The zoning review, the plans that you submitted for zoning review show the parking on the boulevard, which is why you got the 0 parking.
Well, no, the original zoning review was done off the site plan that didn't show the parking.
Right, so
The
you,
the
0.
updated site plan, the one that has the car bubbled, shows it on private property, not on the
That
boulevard,
provided to the zoning examiner.
which is what satisfied transportation, because we demonstrated that we,
But it doesn't satisfy zoning. That's the problem. So it should have been given to the zoning examiner to see if it would have changed the variance.
Would it not remove the variance because they're complying with one parking spot on
They
private?
have the one
It's-
parking spot, but the
Might be
parking
the
spot
size.
doesn't comply
It's-
with
yeah.
the location
So it
that
would
is
have, the
permitted.
variance might
see.
then become the size of the parking.
Still a parking variance, it's
Yeah.
just a different
Parking variance.
Yeah. It's a different variance.
Yeah.
So as it stands.
What's your-
Amended or deferred to everyone.
My position is that we should defer this and to give the applicant time.
Deferred.
Yeah.
But you still want the parking spot. You still want to be able to park there.
So this is where it gets complicated. Certainly, obviously, we want to maintain the existing condition, but my client would like to build or start the building process in the fall, right? So deferral pushes us to the spring. So what if we remove that variance altogether, so that the approval can go through for construction, and then we go through committee of adjustment separately for a parking variance in the spring?
Well, no, you don't want to really remove the variance. You want to prove that you don't need any parking.
Well,
And then you want to
certainly,
reapply
yes.
for a variance for.
That's what I meant, is if we step back to the idea that we will put in the curb cut technically and landscape the front. This satisfies this application, and then we would go
And then
through
you take your chances on.
going back
whether or
and
not-
dealing with the existing
With
condition.
understanding that there's no guarantee and you may
Getting-
end up with not being able to park on the site.
Certainly.
No, we're just
Certainly.
being clear about
Oh,
what
yeah.
it all means if it were to roll out.
Yep.
Okay, so on the basis of that, do you wish to proceed with the application that's before the committee today?
You don't have the plan, you don't have the right-of-way report because they withdrew it on the understanding it was going to be on the site. So unless you're prepared to put in a condition that is not actually before you, because it got withdrawn. Should still.
I mean, a condition does not have to be put before us by a department for us to impose it. At the same time, I would question procedure of approving a variance that the applicant has explicitly informed us is not what they intend to build.
I mean, I would be more inclined to remove the parking variance and go with the structure and then come back.
You won't get a
parking
variance
variance because he
permit.
still needs parking.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, we can't do.
Like, I mean, they either have to defer it, he either has to go with the application as it is, that's what it is, or defer it, get the other dealt with, and deal with whether or not that would be a delay in the whole process being,
Well, it would just be
finished
a
for
matter
them.
of getting the
Yeah.
corrected zoning review, everything else is staying
Yeah.
the same.
and
It's
getting,
that one
and
variance
getting
might
another
end up
hearing
being-
date.
Yeah,
different
it's the rebooking of the hearing date and everything like that.
Depending on how quickly you can get that done.
Yeah.
Because these panels are going to expire by the end of the summer, you probably want to have it come back to the same panel.
Madam Secretary, I'm just wondering, is it possible for him to get, to have all this corrected and bring it back by August 28th? August 28th.
I gotta be corrected by next week.
Okay, so, I think it's,
Well, you're booking into September 25th right now, right? Sorry, okay, yeah, exactly, there you go, so.
Well, we know it's a simple
I
one,
think the
so-
preference is to have the accurate, intention, with respect to the property before the committee. I
Yeah.
Yeah, we're the
Yeah, 'cause we
28th.
did
28th of August.
August. That's our first for this panel, first next day.
I'd like to see him before I go, Madam Deputy Secretary. It's simple. We know the basis. We know it, so we put him
I
on.
don't have a problem
I
with
don't
you
have
adding, if,
Mr. Smith will be lucky.
Are you on vacation?
No.
No. I was just wondering, because I know Eileen sent me the original transportation report, whether or not you guys had it in your,
I had it,
yeah,
and it was not because they withdrew it.
they withdrew it. So there's no technical way of tying it to a report that you kind of had, but you didn't have, that you don't have
Not
it?
before us.
Not before.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I think we did.
Madam Chair, I would move for deferral of this matter from item number 48, that Mr. Anto, item number 32, and to have Mr. Smith being brought back before this committee on August 28th.
Recirculation.
Recirculation fees, Mr. Smith, you'll pay that's about $200.
No problem.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Okay. Okay, the items,
It's okay. I appreciate your help, guys.
the
Thanks.
items deferred. Okay, 33, 3 Millerson Avenue. The committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. 4 form letters in support signed by the owners or occupants of 236, 238, 240 Glenholme Avenue and 295 Lauder Avenue, and letters of opposition from 232 Glenholme Avenue and 234 Glenholme Avenue. Could we have your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Michael Bateman. I represent the owner of this property. My address is 30 Canterbury Place.
Thank you. Committee members, do you need a presentation or would you like to proceed to questions? Questions? Any questions then, members?
Mr. Bateman, variance number 3, you have the second story of, you want to have the platform, balcony of 8.5 meters square, and the bylaw is saying they should have 4.0 meters square. Why do you need to?
Right. Well, I can go over all the variances. That variance is actually, we're trying to keep the character of a existing house. There's platforms, there's verandas and 2 stories in the existing home. I have a picture if you're interested. The 3rd story small veranda is just consistent with the design of a home, so we just wanted to keep the same character. It's more of a design issue.
And any other homes in the neighborhood have that design feature in it?
Possibly, but yeah, I can show you the existing condition if you're interested. The front of the existing building is all veranda, so we just want to have small kind of continuation of that. It would be very odd if you just had a blank wall on the 3rd floor rather than another small veranda that's...
No safety rail.
There is safety rail, it's just not very, very clear. There is very good safety rail, don't worry about that. There is definitely, I assure you, there is.
Is it glass? Maybe glassed.
No, it's not glass, it's all metal rail.
Oh, okay, maybe it's just the angle of the...
Yeah, the photo was taken from Google, sorry.
All right. Any other questions, panel members?
We're basically following the outline of the existing house. We're not really introducing any more to the footprint of the existing home. The other variances kind of reflect the fact that we're following the existing condition on the site. The 2 objections that came in basically are mentioned that they would have lack of sunlight due to this addition, but they're actually quite a lot further south, so there's no chance that there's any shadow that would be falling from this addition onto their property.
I think they also spoke a lot about construction concerns, so will you be going out of your way to minimize impacts on the neighbors?
Doing our best. I mean, I'm not really a construction manager. I'm just, it's handed on to another company. But yeah, if you'd like to impose some conditions on...
No, we're not going to impose a condition. It was just a question.
As far as yes, I mean, it's a large property, so there's ample parking in the front, so there should be enough space for the construction crew not to go anywhere beyond where it's necessary.
Just being sensitive to the neighbors. Okay, any other questions, panel members? No. Okay.
Just Madam Chair, one of the complaint, I think they spoke about no green space at the back.
It's an existing condition. There's very little space. It's true. There's basically, because of a driveway and because of the nature of the site, there's and also it doesn't require a variance because we're not really changing. We're not adding anything. We're not subtracting any more green space.
Okay. Those are my questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? We're in committee, discussion or motion?
Madam Chair, I move for approval of this application in that it appears there's no need for the 3rd story balcony. We allow him the the request. It has meet the four tests under Section 51 of the Planning Act, 45 of the Planning Act. And so I move for approval of this application, not out of character of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? The application's approved.
Thank you.
Item number 34, 138 Spruce Street. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 4 photographs of the subject property, site statistics received from the agent, project explanation letter circulated to area neighbors by the property owners, and email correspondence from Heritage Preservation Coordinator, the Heritage Preservation Services, City Planning, staff report from the manager, Heritage Preservation Services, and correspondence in support from 136 Spruce Street, 140 Spruce Street, and 152 Spruce Street. And just your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Monica Kuhn. I'm the architect agent for the owner, 12 Sackville Place.
Thank you. Committee members, do you need a presentation or proceed to questions? Any questions then?
No.
Okay. All right. No questions?
No.
Okay. We're in committee. Discussion or motion?
Through you, Madam Chair, there are a lot of additions in this neighborhood. I thought that the material we received that showed a lot of existing conditions was also very helpful. I think what's being proposed fits within the context of the neighborhood, meets the 4 tests, so I move approval, including the condition in the Heritage Report dated July 5th.
Seconder?
Seconded.
Okay. All in favor? The application's approved with that condition.
Thanks very much.
Number 35, 101 Scarborough Road. Committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, committee members. My name is Enzo Lacasano. I am the agent for this application.
Okay. Panel members, any questions?
No.
Any questions, Mr. Russell?
No.
Okay. Thank you. We're in committee. Discussion or motion?
I believe this is going on the on an existing footprint. I think this is one variance that's indeed minor, meets the 4 tests, so I move approval.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you.
Number 36, 46 to 54 Ossington Avenue. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Covering letter from Christina Glass, applicant. Email correspondence from the planner, community planning, city planning, Toronto and East York District. Email senior planner, city planning, strategic initiatives, policy and analysis, Toronto and East York District. Heritage Preservation Coordinator, Heritage Preservation Services, City Planning. Acting Manager, Traffic Planning, Transportation Services. Correspondence in support or no opposition from Westport Blue Incorporated, the 100 Group Corporation, Junction Investments, Storefront Capital Corporation, and Rondon Corporation, 644, 64, 76, and 90 Ossington Avenue, the Ossington Community Association, and Tossi Rioco Incorporated, 56 to 58 Ossington Avenue. And can we please have your name and address for the record, please?
Sure thing. My name is Charles Arbez. I'm a development manager at Hallmark Developments, 474 Wellington Street West, who are the owners of the lands at 46 to 54 Ossington.
Okay. Committee members, any questions?
Mr. Charles, the distance between the 2 main walls, variance number 1, you're seeking 2.27 meters, and those facing each other, you should have 11 meters separation. Why?
That's a good question. That is just due to the fact that the 2.27 meters is actually the existing distance between the buildings that are on site today. The proposal is to renovate the buildings and place retail and office space within the existing structure. So what we've done is we've taken the main building line and just extended it back toward the public lane. So that variance requesting 2.27 meters is actually just a legal nonconforming condition that was only triggered due to the legal change of use from residential to commercial within the structures. So while it is under the 11 meters that is required, we're just legalizing a condition that's on site today. The built form additions that we are putting in place don't actually trigger the variances themselves, or that variance in particular, as they don't have windows. So that 2.27 is simply to maintain existing distances that are between the buildings today.
The parking, you're required to have 19 parking spaces. What happened there? You're only providing 5. What's going on?
Yeah, so that's also a good question. The property that we're dealing with is actually 5 separate addresses and 3 separate legal lots. During the quite extensive discussion that we had with Toronto Building as well as C of A staff, it was determined that the best possible way forward would be to combine the applications for the zoning review, or rather the addresses for the zoning review, as well as the file, just for ease of reference. So what that did was it inflated our parking count from 10 to 19, simply because all of the retail at grade and the offices in the second and third floor were combined in order to determine that 19 square meter, or rather the 19 parking space requirement. So in effect, all those spaces are separate. It's just due to the fact that it was simpler to go forward with a zoning review that was holistic for all 5 properties on the site today. So while it looks that like we have a 19 parking space requirement, it's actually only about 10, and we're maintaining the parking spaces that are on site today. Each site can only really fit 1 parking space, so we're just maintaining that rate on site.
And there's no ability for any of those parking spaces to be an accessible space.
We do have space back there. The thing that we ran into is just the fact that due to Ontario Building Code regulations, we had to maintain a clear path from the exit of the existing structures. So there needed to be a path adjacent to the parking spaces to get out the back toward the laneway. That being said, there is space. Like that entire back area is just going to be maintained as an open lot at the back, so we have more than enough room to allow for an accessible vehicle to enter and exit, just not enough room for a dedicated permanent accessible space. And again, we're simply maintaining what's like the way the site circulates today in relation to the parking.
So you won't be able to, at the back, you won't be able to put in an accessible parking space in there? I mean, you have a wide open space in the back.
We have a wide open space, but as I said, that pathway past the parking spaces, again, simply because the lot lines are technically, there's technically 5 separate lots. We have to maintain a clearway between the lot and the parking spaces to allow for people to have, it's very technical, it's just to allow for people to have egress and exit out of the lot.
To allow
To allow for a formal, permanent, accessible parking space. That being said, there's plenty of space for accessible vehicles. It's going to function just fine and as currently functions today. So we have the room to allow for accessible entrances and exits. They will be allowed through the actual function of the building, but simply because of the lot line, the lot fabric, there's simply no room to formally allow for one permanently.
So the submission that was sent in, you're basically saying all the variances are existing condition, and the only reason they're being triggered is because of the change of the way you're going to use the building.
Yeah, the vast majority of the variances are just to legalize existing conditions. We're not tearing down the buildings, so that's...
Is it the vast majority or all? And
It's the vast majority. So the window separation...
which ones are not existing is probably the fast...
Well, parking, simply because we are adding density. We are under the density limit. We don't have a density variance, a height variance, or any setback variances to the new additions.
Right.
But the parking variances, they do get inflated simply because we're adding an addition.
Okay.
But the ramp, the frontage, the frontage variance and the side yard setback variances are all to legalize existing conditions on site, and that's due to the fact that we're not tearing the existing buildings down. This is a renovation along Ossington, so the vast majority, I would say, are to legalize existing conditions.
Now, it talks about the type B loading space. Do you have, how are you going to be getting supplies to the businesses?
Yeah, good question as well. So it's along the same answer. The businesses that are going to be functioning within these 5 buildings are going to be functionally separate. Again, due to our discussion with buildings as well as C of A staff, we combined the applications under one formal address, 46A Ossington. So the size of the stores are actually small enough that it's simple enough to just have a small truck come in and back up into the parking spaces and load small amounts of material in and out. The retail stores are actually functionally only about 115 on average square meters. So while we're required to have a loading space back there under the old bylaw, it's going to work just fine having a small space back there for larger loading or smaller loading trucks to just to back in and back out. I would also note that variance is only technically required. The new bylaw exempts sites under 1,000 square meters for loading, so that's why we're only dealing with one loading variance for the site. So again, that's also an existing condition. The existing property doesn't have a formal permanent loading solution. They simply back in and out simply because the stores along Ossington aren't large enough to really warrant one. So there isn't size, again, just due to the lot fabrics to permit a full type B loading space.
Any other questions, panel members?
Are you aware of the conditions?
We are aware of the conditions from Transportation Services. To be perfectly honest, we were a little surprised to receive them so late. This project's been subject to some extensive review between different city departments for about a year and a half. So I've been speaking with the city planner about it, and he is also surprised to see Transportation Services require additional setbacks to provide for.
Problem meeting these?
We don't have problems meeting them. We generally think that they're a bit premature to be requiring them on a renovation. We have no issues looking at them down the road if a more fulsome redevelopment comes to pass. However, we look at this more as a renovation project that doesn't require the setbacks requested from Transportation Services. The official plan sections that report sites, I also just want to clarify, it doesn't require a 1.1 and a 1.67 setback to Ossington as well as to the rear laneway. It specifically states that it may be required, and it's up to the discretion when it's necessary. So in our view, the scale of this proposal doesn't warrant setbacks to really go forward with a future right-of-way widening. City planning is also of the same mind. Additionally, the way that the site is organized right now along Ossington, it lines up the 2 front additions at 46 and 48 directly with the front wall of 44 Ossington, the adjacent property to the south. That was done in order to sort of create a transitionary zone coming south to north along Ossington, where the 2 front additions would line up directly with the main wall to the adjacent property to the south, and then set back to the existing wall at 50 to 54, which would then continue up north and line up with the adjacent property to the north. So what would in essence happen if we complied with the transportation conditions? It would create a subpar urban design condition in the sense of it would jog once, 1.1 meters, and then back again to the main wall. In discussions with city planning, the entire reason why we lined up the front wall to the front lot line was to, again, create that transition from south to north and allow for the front wall of our proposal to line up with the front wall of the building at 44 Ossington. So it would create a jog, so to speak, once and then back again. At the rear, the building, or rather the open space at the rear is going to be maintained. So what Transportation Services is asking for is in essence a setback to thin air. To the parking spots. So we see that area along in the back of the building as in essence a widened laneway anyway. It functions that way currently. And we'd be more than happy to look at a laneway conveyance at that point during a more fulsome zoning bylaw or site plan application for a bit more of a holistic redevelopment proposal. But again, we look at this as a renovation. No, not at this time. It's just the scale of this renovation in our minds and in the minds of city planning doesn't require to comply with transportation conditions to maybe have a right-of-way conveyance down the road. I tried to get in contact with Robert Lee, the transportation planner who suggested those conditions, as did Kirk Hatcher, the city planner on the file. Neither of us could reach him just to discuss. Again, we only got it on Monday, so our view, city planning's view, as well as urban design, is to maintain the proposal as is, simply because that's the way it was cited and supposed to be. It makes the most sense functionally as well as from a design perspective. And again, this is more of a renovation that doesn't necessarily warrant an additional minor setback to allow for a potential right-of-way widening down the road.
Well,
The official plan also notes that,
transportation disagrees.
absolutely, absolutely, and city planning disagrees with transportation.
They're trying to protect themselves from the outset, so
Yeah.
that's why the report's here.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, any other questions? No? Okay, we're in committee, discussion or motion?
Through you, Madam Chair, I mean, this application has a lot of support, including from the Ossington Community Association, who's gone through this. There's a lot of support from adjacent properties. There are properties that are larger, deeper, so I think the proposal itself is in keeping with what's in the neighborhood. I would be prepared to move approval of the application, but I would include the condition in the July 15th transportation report.
I would second.
The July 15th transportation report, which is set back all building additions from the front line, lot line, a minimum of 1.0 meters at the south limit to 1.1 meters. Sorry, which one is that?
Second bullet point.
Yes, because based on what I read in the last paragraph, protects for the expansion, of, like for the laneway, the right-of-way, so yes.
Is there a seconder?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor? Okay, application's approved, subject to that condition.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Number 37, 291 Glenholme Avenue. Committee has before a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Correspondent from the agent confirming accuracy of the property survey. Staff reports from the Director of Community Planning, Toronto and East York District, and the Manager of Permits and Enforcement Parking Transportation Services, Toronto and East York District. So, can we have your name and address for the record, please?
Good afternoon. My name is Elias Gasemian, and
Spell your last name, please.
Yes, Ghasemian, and I am representative of architect for this application.
Okay, panel members, any questions, presentation?
Other than, I know the adjacent part of the semi has, clearly has a unit at the bottom, right? And similar to what you're proposing. Is there anything, any other units, basement units in the area? Because I couldn't find any.
Yeah, there is the neighbor on the side, on the north side, have a.
Well, that's the other half of this.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, that's what I already said. So is there any other ones?
Oh no, I don't think so. Yeah.
So have you seen the planning staff report?
Yeah. Yes.
So I noticed from the drawings, it appears there's already a walkout from the basement level to the rear yard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there a reason
Yeah.
why you need a front and a rear?
Actually, the reason is that because the rear yard is a private for principal dwelling. So if we have access from rear yard, we may interrupt the privacy and the privacy for that family. And also on the side, we don't have enough room to have access. So the reason that these are the reasons we ask for access in the front. And in the existing plan, we have access from the front side too.
My other question is, are you trying to mirror what's next door? Because you're asking for zero parking. The way the neighbor has it is there's still parking in front of that entrance. So is that your intention as well?
Actually, there is no parking in the existing. We don't have any room for parking. So
There's a car there.
Well, I mean, I have a picture.
Yeah, there is some
There's room-
asphalt.
There's clearly room for a car. There's a garage.
It's not inside the property line. It's in the city line.
Well, it's still, you're
Yeah.
parking in front.
Yeah, yeah. And in our proposed site plan, we have a soft landscape and just a very small sidewalk for the.
So there will be no longer anyone parking in front of the
Oh,
property.
no.
Okay, so you do know there's a transportation report that's asking that you're expected to restore the curb cut
Oh,
as well as the soft landscaping.
no, I don't know about that.
Yeah, because you're asking for if there are no parking,
Yeah.
you have to take the curb cut out. So transportation is indicating,
All the neighbors don't have parking in that area on this side. And they have soft landscape and.
Okay, I'm just saying that transportation, right now, there's a curb cut there.
Yep, yep.
Clearly, somebody's been parking there. So they want a curb cut put in at your cost, not the city's cost.
restore the curb.
Restore the curb and all soft landscaping so that you cannot park there anymore.
Oh,
That's what you're asking for, right?
yeah, maybe. Yeah, yes.
Maybe?
No, that's right.
Okay.
Because your variance is asking,
The variance is not about the parking. I think it's about
Yeah,
the.
it
the variance is about
Zero
the parking. You're asking that,
The-
because you need 2 parking spots and you're saying no parking's going to be provided.
The variances are for parking, nothing else.
The variance is for access to the basement
All
from.
the variances are for parking.
Oh, that's I think that's the old one. The new variance is different.
What do you mean new variances?
Oh, I'll show you.
When did you get this?
Well, this is what's before us, parking.
So they've made another,
No?
no, so you made a new application?
It's up to you to go to Committee of Adjustment staff to make. It's your application, the department doesn't do that for you.
So was this formally filed as an application by your boss?
No.
It's for a variance for secondary suite restrictions on pedestrian entrance.
Because this is what's before us, right? So
The date at the top right-hand corner, it looks like when it was printed off, it suggests it's June 27th. This is not before us. The only thing before us is parking. Do you need to get other directions?
Staff's just checking.
Checking. I mean, there's not even a cover letter on, okay?
What are they asking for in that?
It's a variance to.
And let me show you. Can you give it to staff, please?
It's like it's not even addressed to anybody other than. Did you get something else from zoning review saying you needed that variance?
Yep. Right, let me check
Then
my
this-
documents.
This went through zoning review.
Mhm.
Did you change your application? Because at the time that this initially went through, it only identified parking variances. So did you change your plan or what?
No, there is no change. I think.
Yeah, that's what, yeah. I have no, yeah.
It's not a zoning review.
No.
It's signed by
Yeah.
the agent that was
Yeah.
authorized.
No, I know that part, but my only point was to this gentleman, that the plans that you submitted with your application,
Yep.
the only thing identified is parking.
I think the planner was made mistake about the parking because in the existing dwelling there is no parking and there is no room for parking. So the
So
only.
this is what they're saying. They're saying there's no room for parking.
Yeah.
And because the bylaw says you need parking, you're asking us to say, please say we don't need parking. We want a variance to say we don't have to provide parking. But that's all that we have before us. There's nothing else before us.
I think after communication with the planner, the only issue for variance was the access from the front side.
Well, to be honest, the planner actually is recommending refusal.
Yeah, I know about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
You have an application that is incomplete and the plan is refusing.
It's not
Not incomplete.
It's not complete?
I have,
But the
Okay,
planner,
so just a
Report.
committee
Okay.
yet. What's that?
yeah, if we're in committee, I think you said this report, but
yeah,
All right, I'm just saying to you that the only matter before the committee today is a request for a variance from the requirements that you provide parking on site, and you're asking that there be no parking required. That's all that's before us today, and that's what we'll be considering,
Oh, okay.
okay? That's not provided, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
so you would have to, what, he has new information?
no.
No, if he wants to make something, okay. Okay, so we're in committee?
Mr. Carlson has some comments.
this planning report makes no sense to me.
No.
They're asking for, I understand that they don't want the walkout. I can see the planning rationale for it, but it doesn't really make sense.
No, that's what, yeah.
And
I don't know, boy.
frankly, they should know better.
Well, I agree with you, because when I looked at it,
I said, huh?
the same,
Yeah.
I didn't really know
I didn't
what to
understand it
relate it
either.
to. And, yeah, so I don't know.
So looking at the variances we have, and seeing as this is on a zoning review, the walkout appears to be as of right, I would support this application, that lack of parking.
With the transportation conditions,
I,
With the transportation.
well, no, if there's to be no parking on site, the cot should be removed.
well, they're asking for no parking, so.
They're asking for no parking.
They have a driveway that leads to the garage, which is where
I know.
the apartment will go.
Yeah.
And if you look at the neighbor, they have the same thing, but they are still parking in front of that apartment. That's why I was asking earlier if they're gonna use it. That's what they're gonna
Can
use
we
it.
just then approve the application without, let's say we consider all those things, we're not imposing any conditions, we're just approving the application?
I think that
We could. That would be inconsistent with what right-of-way is trying to achieve, and I don't think we should. If the application is for no parking, there should not be a curb cut.
it shouldn't be encouraged.
It's desirable for the purposes of the plan and the bylaw that the curb cut be removed if there's no parking.
Okay. So your motion is for
My motion
approval
is-
subject to the transportation condition?
Yes.
Okay, is there a seconder?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, all in favor? Okay. So the application for the parking variance is approved, subject to the transportation condition, which means you have to restore the curb, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Item number 38, 205 Bathurst Street. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Staff report from the Development Officer, Property Planning and Development, Toronto Transit Commission.
I'm the applicant, Jennifer Chow, for representing 205 Bathurst Street.
Thank you. Committee members, do you need a presentation, or would you like to proceed to questions? Okay, any questions?
Variance number 2, your request is 5 floor space here is 5 square meters less than what is required.
That is correct.
Why is that so?
Well, it's just because it's the existing interior space, and there are a lot of condo units that are much smaller than that right now. So basically, we have provided 3 different units. One would be 60 square meters, one would be 35 square meters, and one would be 85 square meter. The 35 square meter one is actually a bachelor that is actually a lot larger than a lot ones are in condos right now, which is around 25 square meters. So I don't think that's sort of an issue because it's quite a common condition right now.
Is there any other examples where there are 2 secondary suites in townhouse, where the bylaw only allows for one?
There is, I don't have the property address, but I can submit that if that's.
No, now's your time.
But I think the most reason is because it's considered right down to downtown, and the location is right next to a TDC station. For a residential unit that is basically located right in the core of the city, a lot of units are doing it illegally, and our owner basically wants to do it legally, and so that's why we're applying for this, because we all know that currently there are a lot of houses that are basically making into rooming houses and basically triplexes illegally, and this we are trying to do it the legal way.
Any other questions, panel members? Okay, we're in committee, discussion or motion.
Through you, Madam Chair, this is on an arterial road. It's beside a bus, TTC bus loop, / streetcar loop. There's an apartment across the street. So I think in this case, this is appropriate, having the extra unit to provide housing that's near transportation in the downtown core. So I would be prepared to move approval, as I feel it meets the 4 tests and fits within the context of the neighborhood.
I would second that, observing that the secondary suite regulation does not reflect the character of Bathurst Street.
All right, all in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you very much.
Number 39, 57 Roxeter Avenue. Thank you. I
Hi, Kieran Waugh.
appreciate your patience.
Kieran Waugh, I'm the applicant and owner.
So committee members, do you need a presentation or questions? Any questions? Okay, thank you. No questions. We're in committee. Discussion or motion?
I believe this one meet the 4 tests. I move for approval.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Okay, all in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you.
Number 40, 186 Windermere Avenue. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans and elevations, correspondence from the agent detailing support from neighboring properties, staff report from the acting supervisor, tree protection and plan review, urban forestry, 9 form letters in support signed by the owners and occupants of 180, 184, 188, 192, 194, 200 Windermere Avenue, 31 and 53 Bugdale Terrace, and 202 Windermere Avenue. And can we just have your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, Jonathan Hatch for 186 Windermere Avenue, agent.
Committee members, do you need a presentation, or would you like to proceed to questions? Okay, any questions then?
Just Mr. Hatch, you just talk a little bit about the increase in requirement for floor space index, your floor space index. What do you have there at present moment?
Currently, the floor space for the property is memory serves me, we're around 24%, but the existing house is 103.26 square meters, which makes it 103.26 square meters, which gives it a FSI of 25.77.
And you're moving to 56?
Yes. So sorry. Yes, we're requesting 0.56 in lieu of 0.35.
That's quite a. This isn't a minor, it majors.
Well,
SI at 184, what is that? Do you know?
That's my question. The house to the left looks much larger.
Yes, so the house on the south, which I would also note is in support of the application, has a substantial addition as well. We were unable to measure the house, but based on the survey that was provided, And the fact that it's 2 stories, we estimated their FSI at 0.42. And when we reviewed previous Committee of Adjustments decisions, we found decisions ranging from 0.39 all the way to 0.76. And in fact, the average was at 0.589. So our average is, our FSI is 0.56. So we actually fall below the average of what has been approved in the neighborhoods.
So what's the radius?
Sorry?
Sorry.
If you want, I can show you our...
Just what's the radius of that survey
Oh,
you gave?
it would just be within, we only ever go within the zoning area or within four streets over. Now, the Kingsway is a little bit different because
Yes.
there's slopes all over the place, but if you want, I can show you our
Anything
data.
on Windermere itself?
Yes, on Windermere, we found 156 Windermere is 0.74, and 168 at 0.58. Would you like me to show you on the board?
That's fine. No, that's fine. A question for you with respect to the garage and the setback you're requiring there. Is there no, because that's a new construction,
Yes.
there's no ability to comply or?
So in this case, you'll notice that we are proposing an integral garage.
Yes.
So we've specifically placed it towards the rear rather than at the front of the building so that the streetscape is not impacted. However, in this case, the driveway is quite limited. So there is enough space to get down the driveway, but once you add the wall thicknesses and where the house is situated, you can't get a legal door in without going to a 0 setback. So that's why we are requesting the 0 setback in this case. Again, this is also the side that we are requesting. The neighbor is on side. We've also spoken to planning, and they have not opted to speak in
So
opposition.
184 is supportive of that?
Yes, and we have the letters of
Do you
support.
have?
I believe it's in your file. I would also note I have 3 additional letters of support that were noted in some of the correspondence, but I have it here
Okay.
to give you as well.
Okay, if you'd like to file those. There it is, 184. Okay. Thank you very much. Any further questions, panel members? Okay. All right, so we're in committee, discussion or motion?
Madam Chair, I am satisfied that this application has met the fortes under the Planning Act. And subject to urban forestry 2, I move for approval of this application.
I just comment that I did have concerns about the variance 3, but noting that 184 supports it, and that the plan does call for integral garages.
Design doesn't sort of.
Yeah. I mean, we may have preferences against integral garages, but that is still what the plan calls for, so this is an entirely appropriate design, given that.
So you're seconding?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, all in favor?
Did you put the forestry condition?
Yes, I did. Okay, all in favor? Okay, the application is approved with that condition.
Thank you.
Number 41, 44 to 46 Bernard Avenue. Now, there had been no one here in interest with respect to this when this was first called, but you were also not here when I first called it. Anyone else here with respect to 44 to 46? Just want to make sure I scan the room. Thank you.
Thank you.
And your name and address, sir, please.
My name is Louis Mitz, and the address is Suite 1110 West, Tower, 130 Queens Quay East, Toronto M5A 0P6.
Thank you, sir. Okay, committee members, do you need a presentation or do you want to proceed to questions? I think we have a consent where it's lapsed twice.
No, it's lapsed once.
There was a decision in '05 at the OMB.
No, 2018.
Oh, that was a long time ago, nothing to do with this application.
There's
Oh,
a
okay, but it was on
28.
the site. It was a
yeah.
consent to, 2017, it lapsed. You just didn't have the opportunity to fill all the conditions.
2018, I thought, and there was a cost-sharing agreement you had.
Yeah, that was the big hang-up.
You're closer now, right?
Sorry. No, actually, I had the cost-sharing agreement done, but it was like Murphy's Law.
The person was away.
The person was on jury duty and couldn't get to it in time.
Okay.
But I did end up talking to City Solicitor Ben Baina, a lovely guy, and we went through it together. It was his first experience with something like this, not mine, but it was his. And we've actually pretty much followed the same script as the previous consent.
So you saw the development engineering memo of June 7th and the heritage preservation memo of May 13th and the
Yes.
conditions they're suggesting?
Yes, we're not doing anything to the buildings at all.
So no issue with respect to what they're saying there?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay. We're in committee?
Through you, Madam Chair, given the fact that this was already approved, and it's the exact same application that's before us simply because the cost-sharing agreement wasn't completed in time within the year, I would move approval of the application, including the June 7th engineering report conditions, as well as the Heritage Services report dated May 13th.
And the standard consent
And the
conditions?
standard consent conditions, yep. Sorry? I don't know where they are, but I'm just looking.
So should we
two
just
that
state
we
that?
have. Can we just come out of committee?
Yes, of course.
The conditions for the original 2018 approval, were they satisfied, do you know?
There was no way to deal with without all of them being done at the same time. So I've got everything. I even paid for the municipal numbering. It's been done for a long time.
Do you know if the conditions in the two reports I just referenced, are they just a repetition of what was in, what was?
Yes, they were the same.
So there were no additional, other than the ones I mentioned already?
No, Anna Maria Luciani's checklist of things pretty much covered everything. And
Okay.
other than the cost sharing agreement, we were pretty much there.
Okay, so that would be my motion then.
Okay. Is there a seconder? Okay. Warwick?
Yeah,
Second?
give it to him.
All in favor? The application is approved. Those conditions.
Thank you. I also have to compliment the help I got from the Committee of Adjustment. This has been an unusual situation for all concerned, including the legal department. So thank you very much.
Don't let anybody else go on vacation or jury.
It was jury duty.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, so we're going to vet the 3:30 time slot. So number 42, 138 Montrose Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone here in interest? Okay. 43, 9 Mortimer Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone here in interest? 203 Rushton Road, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone here in interest? Okay. 222 Pearson Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone here in interest? This gentleman here? Okay. Okay, so we'll stand that one down. Okay, are you guys okay to continue? Or do you want to do that?
I'm always going for it.
Okay, we're just going to take 5 minutes and we'll be back. Thank you.
Which one are you holding, Pearson?
Number 45, A, B, and C is held.
What's that? Let me check. I'm just gonna walk.
Oh, you crazy again? What did you give us, 5 minutes? $5. Can you give us one thing at 5 o'clock?
It'll be like going, I've never been there before. And take the train down. Just take the train for 4 nights. And then on to Amalfi for 3 months. Yeah, I've never done the And it was just like, I kept saying, if I stop, we're gonna, so it just.
I don't know, my stomach, I just want to like, you know when it gets like, you feel like it's ballooning. No. Maybe it's still black. I don't know. Listen, I usually have frozen stamp. Then I had the tea. And the same sandwich and lactose free. Regular milk. I don't know, like if she did, then I'm gonna have an attack later. Yeah, but that's, other than that.
No tea.
Because I haven't had anything.
Everything done. Nothing to drink. Yeah, I'm ready. Doesn't matter. No coffee.
Okay, we're going to begin again. So number 42, 138 Montrose Avenue. Committee has before it copy of the minutes from the March 6th public hearing and the materials submitted for consideration. Copy of plan of survey, site plan, revised floor plans and elevations. Correspondence from the agent outlining reduced variances. Email correspondence from the assistant planner to community planning, city planning, Toronto and East York District. And your name for the record, sir, please.
Michael Flynn, agent for this application. I have 5 letters of support from the immediate neighbors
Okay,
that I should be able to give to somebody.
would you like to hand those to me, please?
Okay.
Thank you, sir. So committee members, questions?
Yeah.
Any questions?
It's not really a question, it's just a comment. The, like, the letter we got with you explaining the variances that have been deleted, I had already done all that work. We got that this morning. It would be really nice to get that earlier so that we have it in advance when we're reviewing the agendas at home.
I agree with you. The reason I produced that was because the technician, application technician, actually asked me for.
Well, it's very helpful, and if you can in the future in situations like this, because I know some of us go through this and it takes a bit of time to flip, so it'd be really nice to have that in situations
endeavor
like
to do
that,
that,
and that you
yeah.
submit it to staff so we have it with all our stuff when we go through it.
Great,
Thanks.
thank you.
Okay, any questions, panel members?
This one, the letter.
On the back.
It's on the back page. Yeah. It just shows the deletions from the last time. And the changes, yeah, that's.
Okay, Mr.
No. It just saves us a lot of work when we're going through the agenda, that's all I'm saying.
Mr. Flynn, why don't you just go through this and tell us your changes are based on the letter here?
I think that he's now down to 5 variances versus.
Yeah, they removed 8 variances, they revised 2, and 5 are the same.
Okay.
That's,
I have copies here in black and white, if you'd like.
so is the laneway suite still, it's still comply? Does it comply, or?
It fully complies now, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, questions, panel members? So you had your meetings with planning to get them to the point where they say they have no further concerns with respect to the application?
That's right, we worked with them for months.
Yeah, that was.
Went back and forth and back and
Well,
forth.
that's good. That was a condition of the deferral, so I'm glad that you pursued that. Okay, any other questions, panel members, or are we ready to go into committee? Okay, so we're in committee, discussion or motion?
Through you, Madam Chair, I mean, compared to what we had before us in February, where we had a refusal report from planning, there's been significant changes made, and I'm quite happy that the laneway suite complies as well. So I'm comfortable with this application, as I feel it fits within the context of that area. And I would be prepared to move approval of the application. I don't believe there's any conditions.
Is there a seconder? Okay. All in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you, Madam Chair, thank you, members.
Thank you. Number 43, 9 Mortimer Avenue. Committee has before a copy of the minutes of April 3rd, public hearing, and the materials submitted for consideration. Copy of plan of survey, revised site plan, floor plans and elevations, staff report from the Director of Community Planning, Toronto and East York District, and from the Manager, Right-of-Way Management, Transportation Services, Toronto and East York District, and correspondence in support or no opposition from 7 Mortimer Avenue. And just your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Sarush Kalustian from HSK Design. I'm the agent for 9 Mortimer.
Okay. Panel members, any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
I was actually on the panel, well, when this was approved the first time, so we actually approved a driveway to be a little bit narrower, and I'm just curious why are you doubling the driveway from what the approvals you were given? So you asked at that point for a 2.01 meter driveway, and then it's built twice the size of what's permitted.
That's right.
I don't understand.
Well, previously, we had a legal conforming parking space in the back in our previous applications. And then in the previous hearing when we were here, we got information that the neighbor had built a fence right after the right-of-way ends. So physically, a car couldn't fit into that parking space. So discussing with the planner recommended that we had a softscaping issue in the back. Let's eliminate that softscape issue, and let's accommodate a parking in the front. So in order to accommodate that parking, we had to create more hardscaping to widen that area so we can actually make that parking fit. Because if we don't, it's literally on the driver would be where the right-of-way is.
So you're basically telling us that the planning department told you to build an illegal parking spot?
Not necessarily.
Here?
No, they didn't. They didn't say build an illegal parking, but they said that we understand that there's no way you can actually fit a car parking space in the back. So we came up with this proposal to accommodate a parking space on the site, and as you can see in their planning staff, they have no objections to that.
So are you saying that in the past, you had to swing your car onto the other person's property to access your back parking lot? Because the construction of a fence from where the right-of-way ends to the rear of the property, a fence being this wide.
Yes.
So you're saying in the past you were using the other property to access your parking space?
No, I believe was the fence built afterwards, Mike?
The fence was built after, but when the house was half the width, we could swing before the right of way.
Who's that person speaking, madam?
Okay, sorry. If you're going to speak, you have to come forward and identify yourself.
Sorry about that. Hi, Mike Latta, I'm actually one of the owners. So what happened before the house was built, the house was obviously shorter, so you could actually swing, I guess, it was on our property before the right-of-way ended. So there was space in the old design, there was a garage in the back before the house was redone.
But when your application was done in 2016, did you think you were still going to be able to park in the backyard?
That was, truthfully, I was more concerned with Rouge about the size of the box. I probably didn't really think about it. I thought the issue was more about the physical constraints of the box rather than the landscaping. So.
The difficulty I have with this application is you go before the committee, you request from the committee that you needed approval for a space, which I think was 2.61 at the time. You receive approval of that space, you walked out and you find that you have some parking issues. So you went and I don't know what happened between you and planning staff and anything. So you went and even after you receive approval, you went and you just changed driveway and then you come back to the committee now and tell the committee, well, I need you to legalize this thing. I've done all this thing. Even though you had made a decision, I've done all these things, but you're coming back to the committee to legalize what you have done. Personally, I don't like people to build and then to do things and expect me to approve, just to approve it. So I think you need to give committee some other explanation, some good explanation of what happened.
Yeah, sorry, I certainly obviously I'm not an architect as the owner, but certainly from when we were going through the first iterations of the house, I actually didn't even appreciate the landscaping was part of the approval process. I mean, I'd never done it before, so I didn't even give it any thought into, one of the panel members suggested the driveway was two meters wide on the right of way. I didn't even know that had to be decided. All I knew was the committee or the zoning department was concerned about the specifications of the box. So in terms of ownership of that mistake, that's sheer ignorance. I had no idea that the actual landscaping was part of the design. I do now, obviously, because we're here. So, if that's a mistake, I'll own. It's not something I did intentionally. That's just the way it resolved. So I apologize for that oversight, but I mean, the conformance was really supposed to be to the physical size of the box, which we have no problem with, and we've done to the city's specifications and what we submitted. So.
What's your landscaping there now? What percentage of landscaping do you have in place?
For the front?
Yes.
Well, it states here in variance number 2, we're at 44.76, and the minimum is 50.
And that is what exists in there at present moment?
That's right.
No, you require, and the variance number 3 requires to have 75% landscape opens, in the form of soft landscape. And in this case, you have 36.45%. Why is that so? Who made that design?
I'm not sure. what exactly they're thinking by that, because in the number 2, it's saying 50 has to be, I see what they're saying. So 50% has to be landscaped, and 44 is maintained as landscape, but from that 44, I guess only 36 is in the form of soft landscaping. Softscaping. Yeah. Yeah.
So is the car still able to travel down the right-of-way between the properties?
The car can go to, yes, it can go between the right-of-ways, but it stops at the right-of-way. Where the right-of-way ends, there's a fence post, and so you physically couldn't get it by, and on top of it.
can't go to
But
get-
you can't open the doors, I mean.
Yeah, but now you have already rebuilt and widened the driveway to 4.32 meters. Why can't it go through?
At the front,
At the front, yeah. So that's in,
the front, not behind the front wall.
But is he asking anything from the front, behind the front wall?
No, it's in front of the front.
Yeah.
Wants front yard parking. That's the width, driveway width, and the parking space length. He wants to park in front of the front wall, so front yard parking. Because the submission is that they can no longer, because I think of what you've constructed at the rear of your property, in addition to the fence, you can't make the swing behind your wall. It's not just the fence, because you've got all of this stairs and other things here at the back, don't you?
The stairs actually wouldn't impact it. It's actually the fence is actually before the house ends.
Okay.
So if that fence was not there, then I would technically pass through and then I could park there.
Okay, so this may, when you submitted the initial plans for the variances for the house, they asked, where did you show yourself parking?
in the back.
So had you not factored in your ability to be able to swing beyond the extension of the house and still get into the back to park when you made your initial application?
No, we weren't thinking about it. It was basically an oversight, so.
So the architect, they assumed that access was still going to be possible?
Yes, I mean, like you said, I was focused.
Without infringing on the right-of-way? Or it was assumed that right-of-way the fence would have been open to the whole backyard?
That's right.
And nobody was going to fence from the right-of-way back?
Like I said, I was focused on the size of the box, right? So I didn't think
Of the house, not parking?
Yeah. So, again, it's my oversight, so.
Okay, all right, any other questions, panel members? All right, thank you, we're in committee. Discussion or motion?
I'm somewhat torn on this one, simply because there was also a deferral granted to, make amendments, but I don't see any amendments.
Yeah, sorry. I know you're in committee.
Yeah, I don't know if the chair wants to open it.
Okay, if you have, okay, I'll open it. Do you have some
I
response
should
to
have
that?
asked before, but.
Well, the softscape landscaping was additional variance that was eliminated while we were communicating with planning staff.
I'm just looking at what was before.
Because we had the parking space in the back before, and that was affecting the landscaping, yeah.
Right.
Okay. Can't even find it right now. Anyway.
Okay, we're back in committee. Thank you.
There's the approval and then there's the.
Yeah, let's see the original.
I just had it. I can't. Oh, here it is. Okay. No, it's the same. Well, actually. Forget it.
It didn't change at all.
Anyway, I don't think it changed at all from when we granted the deferral in April, right? Like what's
Exactly
before
the
us?
same. The
Yeah,
variances
that's
are
what I
exactly the
thought.
same.
So what's before us today, so there was an approval of the house with the substandard parking spot, right?
Yes.
Okay, then you came back with the same variances in April. Before us now, we granted you a deferral.
Yes, we
Okay,
grant, yeah.
changes, but my point is there are no changes to what was before us in April and today.
Well-
Same variances, right?
Well, I don't have the previous list in
I
front of
had
me,
it a
but
second ago and I can't find it.
But,
It's
it's
exactly,
exactly the same because when I was talking with planning staff, they said they wanted to meet the regular landscaping percentage and we eliminated that hardscaping area.
You had 5
accommodate
variances
that.
when you were here in April.
And we have,
what I'm saying is like.
And they're exactly the
Okay,
same. Driveway
okay.
width,
Interesting.
4.32.
Like
Landscaping, 44.76.
we did, yes. Yes, we did.
So are they different than what went out in the public notice?
No,
So they're exactly the same as they were in
Yeah.
April?
So it's still 36.45 in the front?
yes.
So nothing's changed basically
That's right.
from the deferral?
So what happened in?
Sorry, can I just add, in that conversation with the zoning staff, when initially the conversation immediately before the April meeting, it came to my attention that, you know, part of the refusal of zoning staffs to support this was they thought we had parking both in the front and the back. So I actually called the zoning, the reviewer, and I said, and I explained the situation with the fence and the inability to swing. And her point was, okay, now that I understand that, it's less of a contentious issue, but if I'm going to support this, I'd like to see more softscaping in the back. So although I guess there is still 5 variances, but she said if you put more softscaping in the back, then I understand the need for the front parking, then to them, it's not much of an issue, which I imagine is the case because nobody opposed it this time.
Well, we don't have anything that speaks to the rear, so.
My recollection is that last time you were supposed to go back and change those lanes, so that's front yard.
Yeah.
So are you saying that although you were meeting rear yard landscaping, you've even improved upon it?
Yeah, I guess we removed
Although it was never a variance?
Yeah, because that's what
You
she
sort of
said.
say, have taken it from the front and put more in the back? And they're saying they're happy with that?
She said that's what would be a better solution. 'Cause
So-
there's a limited amount of space in the front, so I mean.
If I may, there is a planning report that speaks to a recommendation for condition that the rear yard landscaping shall be installed substantially in accordance with drawing A1. Is that what you're doing?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
So they're pretty much saying as long as it's maintained as it is in the application, the site plan, they're content with the front parking.
Right, and then there's also the transportation that speaks to the front.
Yes, they again also mentioned that they don't have any opposition to front parking. Just the entranceway, they were mentioning about potentially narrowing that. But
Well, transportation wants the excessive paving within the city boulevard restored to soft landscaping, with the exception of the walkway, 1.5 meters maximum width. The existing driveway that aligns with the right-of-way must be used to access the parking space, so they want kind of.
So you're going to have to do this?
that's right, it's just, I know, it's just that I don't think physically we can do that.
Another issue too is
It's not, you're looking for double front yard parking. You're looking to park 2 cars in the front, basically, is that?
No.
Well, technically, we can't.
Yeah, so just out of this
Yeah.
point, if I could park on the right, I would, but unfortunately I can't because it also is the neighbors, has the right over top of it. If I could park there, we wouldn't be having this conversation, right? Because then I could just park there and I could make the driveway the 2.6 meters or whatever the standard is. In lieu of that, and, you know, it is their ability to do, so I have to find a different.
So are you saying that you, with the width, restoring the curb in accordance with what transportation is suggesting, if the variances were granted with that condition, you would not be able to pull into the right-of-way and get your car
No.
to the front yard parking spot?
No, physically, it's impossible.
We haven't cut the curb at all.
We haven't cut the curb, it's just the hardscaping that's been widened. But, and the only reason for that is to be able to park in that space that we're showing. We can't physically,
Is the hardscaping right out to the curb?
It's right out to the sidewalk.
I should also add too that as soon as you get off the sidewalk, there's also the telephone pole runs, and there's also a guide wire with the concrete, and this is a city-owned property with a concrete
With the wire that,
wire, but it's also it's like, I don't say the concrete plates, but there's poured concrete on an angle too, which the city, or I guess maybe Toronto Hydro has done as well. So I mean, that's all,
so it's
that's
an
owned by.
obstacle.
Yeah, so so I have, to Saruja's point, we've lived there for 10 years, we've never touched the curb or that concrete. That was all there originally, and even when Hydro came and installed a new pole a year and a half ago, they drilled through all that, so.
So you are asking that we, if the committee were inclined to approve it, that we not impose the condition that Transportation Services is recommending, is that correct?
That's correct.
Because it would make, you couldn't park at all?
No.
Because you couldn't maneuver?
That's right.
Okay, all right.
Can you just confirm that this is drawing A1? It's been cut off here?
You want me to put it on the thing?
Well, it's fine. This is the one referenced by planning. Is this A1? Because it's cut off?
That's correct.
Yes? Okay.
Is that the one with the landscaping in the back?
Okay, any other questions?
Backyard.
Okay, we're in committee. Discussion or motion?
I always get red flagged when people come back for something different than we approved. Having sort of looked at the planning report that basically is saying the same thing that the applicant had just explained about what happened in the back. With the added landscaping that's now going to take the place of some of the paving in the back, as shown on drawing A1, I'm comfortable with the application. I think in terms of the structure itself, it fits within the neighborhood. So I know that's not before us because it's already approved, but I would be inclined to approve the application. If anybody has any comments.
I think it,
Transportation, I'm not sure I'm amenable to not adding the transportation condition, though.
I think it is a little bit of an awkward site. I think if this wasn't so close to the corner of Broadview with there's a commercial dental office at the corner, which has quite extensive parking, then just streets and proposed development that's going to, well, it used to be a restaurant, parking lot across the street now. There's a development proposal there. I would, if this was more further in, I wouldn't be as inclined, but I don't think it's terribly out of character. But the obstructions in terms of access, I would have to take the word of the applicant and their agent that it would not be possible, but I would hope that transportation would know that. That's my only.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so, all right, so my motion then would be to approve the application, including the condition in the planning report dated July 11th, which basically ties it to drawing A1, which is the site plan and statistics. And then with respect to the front, to have it to that the access to the driveway be to the satisfaction of transportation.
Then you can have the discussion with.
You can have the discussion, so not putting the condition in, you can have the discussion with them.
You're dealing with transportation condition.
What I'm saying is that they basically need to have transportation approve however this is going to work in the front.
If they can
for the
convince-
access.
If they can convince transportation of the obstacles that they're saying exist, transportation would probably be satisfied, but it would be up to transportation to determine it versus the hard condition that they've put here.
So that way,
Well,
leaves it open for negotiation, okay, instead of forcing you as a condition to restore it to soft landscaping, you can have a discussion with them and explain.
What
You can maybe
explain us.
tweak it, whatever, at least you'll have your access and.
Just from my understanding as the owner, so the committee is satisfied
We
and.
haven't voted on it.
Sorry, theoretically, hypothetically?
So my motion would be to approve it with the planning condition, and instead of the actual full recommendation that transportation's got here, which is to restore everything, it would be just that the access to the driveway access is to the satisfaction of transportation, which means you still have a discussion with them, and you can maybe, with your agent, show them why this is so onerous to restore everything in the front. Maybe they'll reduce it, I don't know, but you can kind of
Or maybe
work
they'll,
on a
or maybe they'll
compromise.
agree with you.
Maybe,
yeah.
I don't know.
When you say satisfaction, though, aren't you agreeing to their
No.
condition?
That they have a hard,
Satisfied that the access is something that they can right away.
versus the
Right now,
hard,
you're backing out over the sidewalk and over a curb,
Mhm.
rather than turning your car slightly and going out that existing curb cut. They just want that portion
Okay.
blocked off.
Okay.
So maybe if they
Okay. All right.
But you can't do the whole thing because your car overheats and you go for it.
Yeah.
and
So that's something you have to negotiate, rather than the whole boulevard and just the driveway, maybe there's a different configuration that they could live with.
versus this very specific, exacting condition that they're saying in their report, which leaves, is a,
Is a definite no, in other
as
words.
well as a definite,
because-
that's what you've got to do.
Yeah.
And what is the, when we have a conversation with the transportation department, what is, and they recommend something or they live with it, is there a deliverable that they give to?
Yeah, they'll give an approval. No.
So once this is satisfied, then you'll.
Okay, I see. So it's something.
Okay, so that's my
part of the
motion, Madam
application.
Chair.
Okay.
So is there a seconder to that motion? Okay. All in favor? Dissent, Mr. Russell? Okay, so your application is approved on those conditions. So the planning condition and the access to the driveway to the satisfaction of transportation. So you'll have to have discussions with them, explain what you believe are the restrictions to what they've said here, and then it's up to you and them to decide what they'll agree to.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Number 44, 203 Rushton Road. Committee has before it a copy of the minutes from April 17th, 2019 public hearing and the materials submitted for consideration. Copy of plan of survey, site plan, revised floor plans and elevations. Email correspondence from Transportation Standards Officer, Right-of-Way Management, Transportation Services, Toronto and East York District. 7 form letters in support signed by the owners and occupants of 201 Rushton Road, 70, 81, 83, 85, 90, and 98 Benson Avenue. Can we have your name for the record, please?
First name Marco, last name Razzolini. Should have this
Okay.
spelling.
Committee members, do you need a presentation, or would you like to proceed with questions? Okay, any questions?
According, variance number 1, you're moving from, what we have here is 0.6 times the floor space index. You're seeking 1.28 times the floor space index. What has caused this? Why is this minor?
So this is an existing dwelling. We're not proposing any changes to the footprint. Part of the house was torn down because it was in decay, and the owner is just hoping to build it in its exact location. There's a small den in the back that was deteriorating. They took part of it down, and as a result, it was flagged by the building department. So the floor plans aren't changing at all. The FSI is existing. It's been a triplex for as long as we know. When the owner bought it in 2013, it was being used as a triplex, and our goal today is to legalize that.
So we deferred this matter. What was the result of your discussions with Transportation Services?
So previously, we hadn't been showing any parking on the lot. We are now proposing one parking space on the property.
So I'm just reading an email here from Transportation.
Yep.
That says you addressed the side parking pad, which is now a driveway, however, you have not addressed the unauthorized front parking pad. It says the front yard's completely paved. You're only permitted a walkway that's 1.5 meters in width and leading to any entrance in the building within the boulevard. So the remaining landscaping within the boulevard needs to be soft landscaping.
Yes, there's no problem with that. We're aware of that.
You're aware of that?
Yeah, so there was formerly a parking space along Rushton and then one off of Benson. So we're improving the condition on Benson and removing the space on Rushton.
Okay.
So you will have one parking space?
One parking space, yes, on the property.
And the patio, you have a patio on the side yard or something?
Yeah, off Benson.
Was that an issue from
I
transportation?
don't know, I'm asking you if, like, how does that fit into the paving scenario? So that would,
So you're going to remove that stone patio that was shown on the May 14th drawings that's on city property? On Benson?
We can remove it. Was that one of the requirements? Sorry.
where is it? Oh, here.
Yeah. They didn't ask for that to be removed, did they? But it's not on. It's on.
They're not referencing it.
No,
in
they're
the
not
email now.
referencing it, no. Was it in an earlier correspondence?
Looking. Can't find it. Really? Where? Can't find anything. No. No.
I didn't see
There's just
anything.
an email from December in here.
Yeah, I didn't see anything about the patio.
They were concerned about the hardscaping on Rushton, but
But not on Benson?
not that I'm aware of.
Any further questions, panel members? There's a fence, the drawing says there's a fence. Existing fence. Yeah, looks like it. That's what the drawing says anyway. Okay, panel members, we're in committee, discussion or motion?
I'm satisfied that this submit the 4 tests, right-of-way management. I move for approval of this application because of the 4 tests and with the conditions set up by right-of-way management on the patio pavement.
So the Transportation Standards Officer condition?
Right.
Email of May 16th? Is that, am I correct, Mr. Russell?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there a seconder?
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay, the application's approved with that condition. Thank you. Okay, number 45, 222 Pearson Avenue. Is everyone back in the room on Pearson, or are they still outside talking? No, but there was an agent.
Yeah, with glasses.
Yeah.
I'll go see.
Okay. Yes, please. Please, thank you.
Trying to
No, it's okay, we just called.
talk outside.
That's fine. Is the gentleman who's in opposition still here?
To be honest, I have no idea. It's just hard to understand his decision. So are you going to
Sir?
speak or?
Are you going to speak on this item? Could you sit on the left here, please, until we call you? Thank you.
So my name is Sean Tusi, Madam Chair.
There, please. I'm sorry, sir, your name?
Sean Tusi I'm the office principal at Mimar Architects Inc., representing the owner, who is also present here. If you recall, this has been in front of you. It was deferred last time, and it was the same panel. The idea was that talking to a neighbor who was present that day, and the planning suggestion, the idea was that we get the two houses closer to each other, so thus we offer more setback on each side. What would do, it would make the condition better for the houses to the two neighbors, but then it would worsen the condition for the space between the houses. So it was decided at that time, it was a discussion of if the recirculation would be required or not to approve the application. The idea was that yes, we do need it. So that's where we're standing. If you need presentation, I would be happy to do it, but just for the sake of time, I think I'll leave it to address any question you have. Just to address the neighbors here that I talked to outside. So the older gentleman is considering the use of wheelchair at some point, and their setback currently is 2 feet. So they have less setback than what we are even proposing.
Wheelchair, okay.
A wheelchair, and then
You mean for a ramp, potentially? Is that
no, to their concern is that at some point they will use that, and currently they're using the space between the houses. They're technically using my client's property to reach their backyard, and their concern is that they want to continue using that. So I've been trying to explain that there is no easement right of way, so legally that needs the consent between the two neighbors. But even if that does happen, and they two do agree, there will be 5.5 feet space, so it would be no problem. You need 3 feet for a wheelchair to go outside. So if they get consent, they would be able to use it.
Yeah, because you don't know whether or not your client would be erecting a fence on the property line.
Yes, and that I'll also explain because the neighbor do not believe that the client has the right to put a fence on the property line.
But you're
They
not,
think they should.
you're not in position at this point to offer any assurances going forward. Access to that land.
Yes, I do. Yes, I did offer that they could go outside and write an agreement, but I believe the neighbor believes that any fence must also have 2.5 feet, 3 feet setback, which I try to explain, but maybe you guys can help to understand. But that's, I think, their main concern is access to their backyard. That they believe right now there is a plenty of space, obviously, but then it would be reduced. But our position is that that property is not theirs, I mean, regardless of what the setback is. Even if the setback is 3 feet, which is the bylaw is asking, still they don't have permission to access it unless there is a consent. And we are asking for 15 centimeter setback. So with that, I will just leave it to you, Madam Chair.
We can't deal with the personal agreement between both parties.
Yes.
What we can do, that agreement is between you and them.
He understands that.
We can, just tell us where we are out in, do we have an issue with I remember the application now that you have mentioned it before. We have an issue with, we can deal with the Planning Act. We can make a rule as to what the Planning Act says we do. Yeah. And then after that, you can go out and make your agreement if it is possible.
Yeah, so the applicant's agent is aware of that. He's just indicating, I believe, that he's been trying to explain that to the neighbor, and that may be some of the concerns that will be raised by the neighbor. So we're going to hear from the neighbor, and then we will hear back from you. Hello, sir.
I am just not the expert because I never dealt with this kind of problem before.
What address are you, sir?
And so obviously it's now I was understood that I abide by the law, and I expecting everybody else supposed to do the same thing. As
what address do you live at, sir? Are you 224?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And your name, sir?
My name is Frank Turcz, T-Y-R-C-Z. TEY.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
So obviously, I was to a certain extent intimidated. The new idea that the people, they're going to build their houses. Obviously, if I don't agree, if I stick to my bylaws, defend the bylaw, which requires minimum 90 centimeters from the borderline. Now, that's what I understood. Obviously, they have only 75 centimeter from the border. That's their idea. So obviously, they say, if I insist just to abide by the bylaw and stick to this idea, they just threaten me will put the fence between those two houses. So obviously that will be...
Well, just so any property owner, including yourself, has a right to put up a fence that meets the bylaw requirements on their property. Okay, as long as it's not in the right of way. So if you wanted to put up a fence on your property between your two houses, you could do that. So anybody can do that. That's not something new. I take it there has not been a fence there to date, right? It's open between the two houses. Your neighbor hasn't chosen to put up a fence. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that's the way it's been. But at any time, even yourself, you as a homeowner, or your neighbor as a homeowner, could choose to put up a fence on their property line.
Between those houses?
Yes.
So, because I understood, it's only in the front or in the backyard.
No.
But not between those.
Well, you have to look, you'd have to look at what the bylaws say, but generally, you can put up a fence on your property line. If there was a right-of-way between your two properties that you have to keep open for both of you to share, which happens on some properties where, both people have to have access between the properties and it goes to a certain part beyond the rear wall, that's a different situation.
That's why.
But if there is no right-of-way on the survey, and I don't see on the survey that we have before us, that there's a right-of-way, generally speaking, someone can put up a fence on their property.
But the way I understand, obviously, it's evident that you couldn't find fence between those two houses. In my district, in High Park and Parkdale, there is no such thing, not existent, that the fence divides two houses, between houses, in the front of a house and in the backyard. But now I learned that it's possible to erect the fence between houses.
I would expect so, but you would have to check on the general requirements of the area. But it's not, it is something that can happen. Property owners may have chosen not to. And a lot of property owners choose to, start their fences. They put a gate by the backyard and then go into the backyard. Some property owners, though, choose to pull the fence up to the front of the house with the gate at the front of the house to enter the side yard. So sometimes it's preferences. But in some, maybe in certain neighborhoods, people haven't chosen to do that, generally. Generally, but it doesn't mean that they may not be permitted to do that.
This is impossible, because that will be inconvenient both.
Okay, but in terms of rights of access, unless it's a right-of-way, now you enjoy the ability to walk down between the houses, both on your property and their property, and nobody's saying it. It's like, okay, you step on my property, I step on your property. Okay, but in theory, you're on their property. You maybe have been using their property, and maybe they've been using your property sometimes too.
Exactly.
I don't know. But legally, it's not your property.
No,
As your property
yes.
isn't their property.
Yes.
So you're not entitled by right to have access, continued free access to that property. If they choose to allow you access, or you choose to allow them access, that's a different understanding. But legally, you don't have free access to their property. So do you have
Obviously.
any other concerns with respect to the matter, other than the fence going up, potentially?
No, just not the fence. It seems to me I couldn't understand. I never anticipate that I'm going to confront this issue, that the owner, the possible to build the fence between two buildings. I understood that's only in the backyard and the front. That's the way I understood. But today I learned something else, obviously.
And they may choose not to. They may choose not to. But the thing is, they can pull one up. They might choose not to.
Oh,
I have
obviously.
no idea.
But they could.
My understanding is they could, yes.
Mhm. So obviously so I don't know if I say I have to concede that defeat.
So what they're asking us for?
My objection was only to stick by the law. If the law requires you to put minimum, stress a minimum, from the borderline, supposed to be 90, minimum 90 centimeters
Well,
from the building.
0.9 of a meter.
So
0.9 of a meter, so that's less,
it's
about 3
yes,
feet.
it's 3 feet. It's exactly about 3 feet. Because the food has probably what, let's say, 48 centimeters.
Yeah.
30, so that's just the, if you
So
convert
a
to
meter is
the
about
centimeters.
39 inches, so.
So that's the way it is. So obviously I learned something else, something I couldn't expect that, that the supposed to the neighbor.
So what they're asking for us today, and so just so you understand, is people make applications here because they want to ask for a variance from the bylaw requirements. And it's up to us to decide whether or not the variances that they're requesting are appropriate and within the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw and official plan. So they have a right to make this application. It's up to us to decide whether or not we will approve the application that they've made. So do you have any other concerns other than the?
Well, my big concern is that they threatened me with the fence. So obviously put.
Okay, so there's nothing further, so your issue is that, and I've explained to you sort of what the circumstances would be, okay?
Obviously, you said the bylaw, obviously, it's questionable, because obviously they can sort of.
They can. So we've heard you, and I thank you, and we're going to consider the application.
Well, so obviously I have no choice but to accept that.
Well, we haven't made a decision yet, so you have to give us a moment. We haven't made a decision yet.
But just if you just kindly ask, you just if the decision's supposed to come, can you put there some kind of addition, no fence allowed?
No, I can't do that. We don't have that. That's not within our authority to do. We're not able to make that type of a condition. Okay?
So obviously it's, what kind of fence? The kind of what?
I can't, that's not within our authority.
There is no fence being proposed.
But in this case, they would be tremendously inconvenient themselves.
Well, that's up to if this matter gets approved, or even if the owner today wanted to put one up, they're entitled to put one up. So we have to deal with the application that's before us. A fence is not before us. Okay?
Exactly, okay.
Okay, so if you'd like to have a seat, we're going to hear back from the applicant, and then we'll make a decision.
So
Okay, sir.
obviously, the provision's supposed to be some kind of, the fence is.
We aren't
not-
we aren't dealing with a fence at all, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you'd have a seat, as I've explained to you, the fencing issue is something that is another process, and it's within someone's right to put up a fence. There's certain requirements with, no, we're done. There's nothing else to talk about.
Can I just say that in all area, in all Toronto, you wouldn't be able to find the fence between buildings. like this.
I would suggest that you're not
respectfully
correct.
disagree.
Yeah, I would
Well,
suggest you're not quite.
Not in High Park, in my area.
Well, that,
No.
okay, but that doesn't mean that they aren't permitted, just means someone's chosen not to. But, and they haven't decided that, but we're not here to rule on a fence.
We really need you to grab a seat now. It's been 15 minutes, so it's 3 times the allowable time.
So if you could, we've heard you, we understand your concern, but now we have to consider the rest of the application, and then we'll make a decision. So if you could please have a seat, sir, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, do you have anything to respond, sir?
Madam Chair, I'll make it very quick. I'm a licensed architect member of OA, and we follow Code of Ethics. And there's no, I've been just trying to explain what the fence bylaw is to my understanding. So that's, I explain it that way. Today is not about the fence. Even if the fence wasn't permitted, it's still, you can't trespass on somebody else's property.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we're not here about the fence, and I think we've explained the issue with respect to access to people's property and how that happens. Okay, do you have anything else to add, sir?
Unless any question, Madam Chair, I'll just leave it to you.
Any questions?
It's kind of not a question statement, but you did make some changes from what was before us the last
Yes,
time.
absolutely.
They're minor, I wrote them down.
Yes.
But, and that's to.
And that was actually
closer
to increase
together.
the side.
Make the proposal better, in fact, for the neighborhood.
Okay. Okay, so no further questions. We're in committee. Discussion or motion?
Last time we saw it.
You want to move a motion? No.
All right, I would move approval of items 45A, B, and C as I believe that the requirements for the consent are and plan variances.
So are you, and there's several
Including-
reports, planning,
Okay.
engineering, consent.
The standard consent conditions, and I need to find the engineer.
Here.
You have the dates?
Go ahead.
Excellent. Okay. Standard consent conditions as well as.
Forestry 3 on
Forestry
B.
3
That's-
is on.
B.
C and no.
On-
Forestry 3 is on B.
B,
Yep.
Forestry 1 is on C.
Yep. Hang on here. It's because
Oh,
of the way
got
you
that.
open it as though it's a binder. There.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so as well as the conditions in the planning report dated May 10th.
Keep going like a binder. Yeah. There you go.
And the engineering report dated February 21st.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, so your applications are
Thank you, Madam
approved
Chair.
on those conditions. Thank you. Okay, and committee stands adjourned at 4:55.
Are you still with us, or?